Uh, we are having among us as a chief guest CA हंसराज चूक जी, सेंट्रल काउंसिल मेंबर ऑफ ICI. सर चूक साहब, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है सर. वेलकम यू सर.
धन्यवाद.
गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर डॉक्टर RN दास जी, फॉर्मर एक्टिंग मेंबर एंटी मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग ट्राइब्यूनल. सर आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत. वेलकम यू सर. एंड वेरी एमिनेंट स्पीकर, मोस्ट रिस्पेक्टेड माय गुरु जी, CA एडवोकेट एंड डॉक्टर राकेश गुप्ता जी, फॉर्मर ITT मेंबर. सर आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत सर. CA अमित खेमका जी, श्री अमित खेमका जी, एडवोकेट सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया. एक्चुअली मैं सभी को बताना चाहता हूं कि अभी हम कुछ दिन पहले मैं गर्ग साहब, मित्तल साहब, जुनेजा साहब कुछ बैठ के डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि हम अपनी CA लॉबी को, CA प्रोफेशनल ब्रदर्स को किस तरह से स्ट्रॉन्ग कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि जब से GST आया है बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट्स आ रहे हैं और जब से ये देखा जा रहा है कि हमारी जो प्रैक्टिस है वो थोड़ी टफ होती जा रही है. और जैसा कि हम देखते हैं कि GST डिपार्टमेंट में ऑफिसर्स को भी बहुत सारी पावर्स, अनलिमिटेड पावर दे दी गई है गवर्नमेंट के द्वारा. तो बहुत सारे हमारे जो प्रोफेसर ब्रदर्स हैं उनके साथ प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम बहुत सारी आ रही हैं, बहुत सारे इश्यूज हैं जिसमें वो अपने आप को कहीं ना कहीं हेल्पलेस और डरा हुआ महसूस करते हैं. तो हमने सोचा कि ऐसा कुछ किया जाए, ऐसा कोई प्रोग्राम बनाया जाए कि हम अपने CA लॉबी को स्ट्रॉन्ग कर सकें और जो भी प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम, जो भी प्रैक्टिकल इशू आते हैं जब हम अपनी प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटीज को परफॉर्म कर रहे होते हैं तो उसके लिए क्या किया जाए. तो हमने फिर डिसाइड किया कि हम इस तरह से कोई वेबिनार डिजाइन करते हैं जिसमें हम अच्छे अच्छे स्पीकर्स को बुलाएं और अपने इंस्टीट्यूट से भी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव को बुलाएं. तो आज एक बहुत ही अच्छा हमारे पास बहुत सुनहरी मौका है, बहुत ही गोल्डन अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि हमारे साथ इतने ग्रेट पर्सनैलिटीज है हमारे साथ एज ए स्पीकर ऑल्सो. सो विदाउट टेकिंग मच टाइम, आई रिक्वेस्ट रिस्पेक्टेड YK जुनेजा जी, convener of our urban state CP study circle. Sir, please come forward for formal welcome address for our today's guest and guest speaker, sir. YK जुनेजा जी.
सर अपना अनम्यूट कर लीजिए जुनेजा साहब. जुनेजा साहब अनम्यूट कर लीजिए.
It's a great honor to be before you and to and when I have been asked to welcome the great personalities and luminaries in and around the capital. My very good council member friend हंसराज चूक जी, आपका फरीदाबाद के अंदर तहे दिल से स्वागत है. आप पहले भी आते रहे हैं और हमेशा हमने आपको बड़ा ही एक स्वीट नेचर पर्सन पाया है. And I think that you will carry on with your this style and you will win the heart of everyone in the coming years. मेरे बहुत ही अजीज दोस्त और अजीज दोस्त ही कहूँगा, जो कभी तो मुझे ये लगता है कि साल्वे जी राकेश जी हैं कि राकेश जी साल्वे हैं.
सर,
इन दोनों के अंदर बड़ी
पैर की धूल भी नहीं हूँ सर. ये तो
इन दोनों के अंदर बड़ी समानता है. एक समानता जो मैं देखता हूँ, दोनों के बालों का स्टाइल जो है क्यों एग्री करते हो ना भाई?
सर ये और भी कुछ लोगों ने कहा है, लेकिन बाल होने से ही काम नहीं चलेगा ना सर. ये तो उनके कोई गुणा है मुझ में तो वाली बात है.
वो है तो सही. अभी तो सभी ने सुना कि आपका मिशन क्या है. आपका मिशन यही है, एजुकेशन और प्रोफेशनल एक्विपमेंट जो है डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना अमंगस्ट ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स. ये सारा स्टेपिंग स्टोन ही यही है. ये मेरा व्यू है.
थैंक यू सर.
और RN दास जी और अमित खेमका जी, आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत है और आशा करता हूं कि आप जो है अब पूरा मीटिंग के अंदर बेनिफिशियल टॉक विल बी डिलीवर्ड. एंड एक चीज मैं इशू लेना चाहूँगा विद ड्यू परमिशन कि रिसेंटली मैंने न्यूज़पेपर में पढ़ा था कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट की ये ऑब्जर्वेशन है, उन्होंने बड़ा कैटेगोरिकली ये कुछ कहा है कि CAs जो है they are just assistants to advocates. आप लोगों ने किसी और ने भी पढ़ा होगा. एक
उन्होंने सर ये नहीं कहा कि दे आर जस्ट असिस्टेंट टू एडवोकेट्स. उन्होंने कहा कि दे कैन असिस्ट एडवोकेट्स. दे डजंट नो इंटीग्रिटीज ऑफ लॉ. सो ये कहा उन्होंने.
they can only it was in a very different manner and the words used were like this, that आप जहां पर हो वहीं रहो, उससे आगे मत बढ़ो. It meant like that. And it was there the lobby from our council members should take up this matter of such words spoken by the honorable judge. It was there in the paper. Anyway, now all the council member is also here. Supreme Court judges, Supreme Court advocate is also here. Please throw some light on this. Please carry on, sir.
सर मैं इस बात पे एक बात कहता हूँ कि जुनेजा साहब, आजकल क्या हो गया है कि वर्ड बाय वर्ड कोर्ट में जो कुछ भी होता है उसको बिल्कुल एकदम इमेच्योर जर्नलिस्ट जो हैं वो रिपोर्टिंग करते हैं, जिनको कि समथिंग सेड आउट ऑफ कंटेक्स्ट इन द कोर्ट बाय द जज, उसका कंटेक्स्ट रेफरेंस कुछ नहीं आता है और वो अपने तरीके से उस बात को प्रेजेंट कर देते हैं. मुझे नहीं लगता कि कोई जज इस तरीके की बात करेगा कि चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को लॉ नहीं आता या उनको कानून नहीं आता या वो लॉयर्स के असिस्टेंट हैं. तो ये इस तरीके की मुझे लगता है कि वो उसकी अपनी जर्नलिस्ट की रिपोर्टिंग की खामी रही होगी. बट वी विल लाइक टू चेक इट. वी विल सर्टेनली लाइक टू चेक इट. एंड
अगर ऐसा है तो मैं आई एग्री करता हूँ, मगर मेरी जो रिक्वेस्ट है काउंसिल मेंबर से कि ये कौन सी प्रेस है, कौन से कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट, कौन सी रिपोर्ट के अंदर ये आया है और ये क्यों आया.
ठीक बात.
सुनेजा साहब, ऐसा कोई अभी रिसेंट न्यूज नहीं है. ये जो पेपर बता रहे हैं ना आप, ये 3 साल पुराना पेपर है. ये कहीं ना कहीं हमारे सिस्टम के अंदर जो सोशल मीडिया जिसको हम बोलते हैं, इसकी खामियां हैं. इसके बारे में जब जैसे आप मुझे बोलने का वक्त दोगे मैं थोड़ा सा ब्रीफ कर दूंगा. लेकिन there is no such neither the Supreme Court has said anything like any comments. Legal profession is always been with the advocates, and the profession of the accountancy or the profession of the whatsoever is been assigned to this particular profession, we are forcefully we can see like we understand the law, but we are not there to present the law before the or the interpreted law before any court of law अंडर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन और अंडर द एडवोकेट एक्ट. तो वो कहीं ना कहीं सोचने की जो है, जो अभी का कोई न्यूज नहीं है. ये वो न्यूज बहुत पुराना है और कोर्ट ने ऐसा कुछ नहीं किया है कि भाई वी विल बी असिस्टिंग. वी हैव द लॉ ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट प्रोफेशन एंड इट एडवोकेट इज अ डिफरेंट प्रोफेशन. प्रोफेशन को जो है डिमार्केशन जो है कि क्या चीज आपके हाथ में है, क्या उनके हाथ में है, वो समझने की बात है. जैसे खेमका जी ने भी बताया कि देयर इज, ये सब जर्नलिज्म का हेरफेर है और इसकी गहराइयों में जाने के लिए हमें अलग से ही इसी बात पे चर्चा करनी पड़ेगी, ना कि ऑन दी सब्जेक्ट. तो उसके लिए जो है आपको एक, क्योंकि वो दैट कैन बी ए फुल फ्लेज प्रोग्राम इटसेल्फ कि व्हाट ए चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स आर बाउंड टू कैरी विद अंडर द लॉ ऑफ द लैंड. इट वी आर बीन गॉन थ्रू द लॉ. There are 2 systems. One is attesting function given by under different law of the country, and one is the advisory function, the consulting function given by the power, by the knowledge by oneself. By knowledge being created and crafted by oneself, one can undertake the activities as a professional, as a chartered accountant, as a consultant, as an advisor. That is not bound by any law. That is been by creation of by oneself of the strength of the intellect, strength of the mind, by which it has been created and crafted by oneself. And one is under the law, the chartered accountant is obliged to undertake some activities. Advocate is obliged to undertake some activities. Same way, company secretaries or the even the engineers, even the cost accountant, they are under the power drawn from the different law. They are been doing their own task, whatsoever is been assigned to them. but here the paper is very old and the interpretation is different. Over to Amit Khemka ji to share, otherwise whosoever is coordinating.
जुग साहब, एक बात और मैं ऐड करना चाहूँगा यहाँ पर कि very frankly, though I am very deeply associated with the CA profession, but I belong to a different profession. And whenever we do the comparative analysis of the standards which are followed by a particular profession, the Institute of Chartered Accountant has actually set up they are setting up newer and newer examples. I don't think there is any other institution of the professionals who is performing so good as the institute is doing. I mean, we also talk amongst our bar council people and all that we must learn so many things from the Institute of Chartered Accountants, the way they are functioning, the way they have set up the great standards of profession. I think that is all salutary, and nobody, if anybody talks ill of the profession, then I think that person needs to learn something.
ये जुनेद साहब कंटिन्यू सर।
हाँ, तो मेरा तो यही गुजारिश रहेगी चुग साहब से, अगर वो ओल्ड कोई पुरानी खबर है तो उसकी क्लैरिफिकेटरी नोट कोई ना कोई प्रेस रिलीज कहीं ना कहीं इंस्टीट्यूट की तरफ से इसके अंदर न्यूज़पेपर में आना चाहिए। विद दिस आई हैंड ओवर बैक टू श्री भगवान दास जी।
Sir, now I want to inform that our meeting coordinator will be CA DC Garg ji, former chairman of our Faridabad branch of NIRC of ICI. DC Garg sir.
Thank you.
DC, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bhagwan Das ji. Thank you very much for this opportunity. सबसे पहले तो this is a basically mega event, not webinar, simple webinar. Yeah. And yes. Today we have stalwarts, great personalities, and whatever words I do not have in my dictionary, you know, to call. So, CA Hansraj Chugh ji, chief guest of the day of the seminar. He is basically serving the profession since NIRC, 2 terms in NIRC, and now in Central Council. He is chairman of the Committee for Development of International Trade, Services and WTO, and vice chairman of Committee for Development, Committee for Members in Industry and Business. And he is very loving to all of us, very helpful in always all fields. Second guest of honor, Dr. Ravi Narayan Das. Das Saab is a former IRS, and he served Income Tax Department in various capacities, including Director General of International Taxation. Later, he appointed as member and then elevated to acting chairman of the Anti-Money Laundering Tribunal. After that, he also served consultant to World Bank and African Development Bank, and now he is practicing law in Delhi. Dr. C.A. Rakesh Gupta ji, my elder brother, very humble and great personality. Lot of degrees he is holding, और मेरे ख्याल से शायद कोई डिग्री बची हो जो भाई साहब के पास ना हो, तो और उनका इंट्रोडक्शन बताने की जरूरत नहीं है. He is great personality, everybody knows about him. Then Khemka Saab, advocate in Supreme Court of India. He has a great experience in criminal, civil and constitutional laws. He has regularly been invited by TV channels and radio, including All India Radio. He is a member of various NGOs and lawyer associations. He has participated in various debates and seminars. Khemka Saab is always very, very helpful in solving all the queries related to profession and all legal matters. So, sir, my humble request to all, basically, last but not least, this program is basically initiated by my younger brothers, C.A. Chandan Singh and Anil Thakur ji. C. Anil Thakur, वो हैं यहाँ पे. Sir, हमारी जो है ना, all the fraternities facing lot of problems, particularly younger members are facing lot of problems. जो मैंने शेयर किया है और केस स्टडीज भी दिए हैं, मैं उस पर टाइम नहीं खराब करना चाहूँगा कि उससे हमें कैसे रिजोल्यूशन होना चाहिए, हमारी रेमेडी क्या है, हमें कैसे क्या क्या सेफगार्ड्स करने चाहिए और लॉ में क्या प्रावधान है जो हम उनसे बच सकते हैं. और बेसिकली मेरा इंटेंट ये नहीं है कि जो गिल्टी है प्रोफेशनल कि वो बच जाए. मेरा तो क्लियर कट ये है कि जो गिल्टी है ही शुड बी पनिश्ड सीवियरली, बट दोज हु आर नॉट गिल्टी, those are who are innocent, they should not be punished, they should not get harassed. So with these words I hand over this proceedings to Bhagwan Das Goel Sahab. Thank you very much. Now
without taking much time, I request respected CA advocate Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji. Sir, please start your deliberation.
No, BD, we
sir.
have got Dr. R.N. Dash, a
Okay,
very
sir.
respectable figure, my
Yeah,
partner. And I think the introductory remarks, his words of wisdom, I mean, that should precede everybody's, everybody else. Therefore, I would request, sir, this is my own branch, this is my own study circle, I am part of it, I am a member of this family. Therefore, in that capacity, I request your good self to kindly, I mean, lead us the path in this regard.
sir, is my fault. I have forgotten to say that that seminar, that webinar has to be presided by Dr. Das. Sir, please unmute yourself. Das sahab.
May I request,
Sir.
because I'm in the place of some of my clients' place. I'm at this moment. I'm at one of my clients' place. I cannot stay much.
So, पहले चुक साहब, yes.
So I'll request to you if you can.
सर मैं तो आपको ये चाह रहा था कि बिकॉज सारी समस्याएं आप सुने और उसके बाद में हम सारा एक मेमोरेंडम आपको दे देंगे. इनफैक्ट सर नहीं सर एक मिनट सर, मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट ये करना चाहता हूँ साहब, कोई बात नहीं, क्लाइंट प्लेस पे हैं तो भी आप यू कैन स्टे फॉर 2 hours 3 hours 4 hours एज पर योर विम्स. तो बेसिकली क्या है कि प्रॉब्लम सर, आप हमारे प्रॉब्लम्स को रिजॉल्व करने के लिए सबसे अच्छा मोडम है और रूट है और रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है काउंसिल में, और यू कैन एटलीस्ट कन्वे आवर कंसर्न टू द ऑनरेबल प्रेसिडेंट एंड ऑनरेबल काउंसिल कि जी ये ऐसे होना चाहिए. देखिए सर, मेरा उसमें ये भी है कि आई डू रिमेम्बर दैट
नॉट ओनली टू द प्रेसिडेंट एंड द to the government also. It is not
to
like
the government also. Yes.
Citizen.
So my concern is this कि सर 15 साल पहले डॉक्टर्स के साथ भी ऐसा हुआ करता था कि कोई भी मिसहैपनिंग हो गई तो डॉक्टर्स को अरेस्ट कर लेती थी पुलिस. तो उसके बाद में मेडिकल काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया ने PIL लगा के सुप्रीम कोर्ट में बोला कि जी देखो, गिल्टी जब तक नहीं प्रूव होता जब तक यू कैन नॉट अरेस्ट. So similarly, we can also file a similar type of PIL. We are independent professionals. They are also independent professionals.
That's right. तो अभी मुझे इजाजत दोगे कि मैं 5-7 मिनट जो है अपने दोस्तों से, अपने जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं या अपने जो स्पीकर्स हैं इनसे
नहीं सर, इजाजत कौन देगा आपको सर?
जो आपकी जो है पूरी चर्चा होगी,
हाँ,
उसको मैं दोबारा से रिव्यू कर लूंगा. यदि आपके किसी YouTube पे या कहीं पे और कहीं भी रिकॉर्डिंग के द्वारा या जो भी आप कंटेंट्स मेरे से डिस्कस कर लेंगे, फिर मैं उसके ऊपर एक्शन कैसे होना है, क्या वे फॉरवर्ड है.
ठीक है सर, एज पर योर विजडम सर, एज पर योर विजडम.
कि मैं अभी एक क्लाइंट के प्लेस पे हूँ और मुझे कुछ एक्टिविटीज अभी उनके साथ बैठ के करनी है, तो मैंने कहा चलो आपने इनवाइट किया, वो तो धन्यवाद आपका कि भाई आप दोस्तों ने हमें जो है आप तक पहुंचने का मौका दिया। तो मैं सबसे पहले तो भाई अपने जो अर्बन स्टेट सीपी स्टडी सर्किल जुनेजा जी और हमारे जो भगवान दास जी गोयल साहब और आपका डीसी गर्ग साहब, आपका धन्यवाद करूंगा कि यू हैव गिवन मी एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू
Our pleasure, sir. Our pleasure.
प्लेजर।
और हमारी जो लर्नेड हमारे जो आज के जो हैं जो गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं, आई रियली अप्रिशिएट द डॉक्टर आर एन दास साहब। आई हैव learned a lot from him, and being with the department for a very long, and he has always been with the profession to guiding them up. And today naturally he is, though he is not there with the department, but the basically as a worked as a acting chairman of the anti money laundering tribunal also, and always been into the different area. He has been with the regional council, guiding the members of the fraternity from all different forums all across India. I really appreciate his presence, and though my memories goes back to the when I was there in the regional council, his deliberation from that platform has brought me and given me a strength to understand the law. And understanding is the first step. And naturally, Dr. Rakesh Gupta, my brother, I really appreciate his contribution for the profession all the time, with a vast of his knowledge, his remarkable knowledge, no comparison. I really appreciate राकेश भाई कि आपने जो है इस प्रोफेशन के लिए इतनी जान लगाई है और हमेशा इस प्रोफेशन को आगे लाने में बहुत पूरी जो है अपनी ताकत झोंकी हुई है। और अमित खेमका जी से जो जबकि मेरा कोई ज्यादा परिचय नहीं हुआ, बट ही इज ए लॉयर बाय प्रोफेशन and in the Supreme Court, that really will giving best of his knowledge to our fraternity members, whosoever is participant today. With these words, basically to understand with the subject you have chosen with, whosoever has advised, whether it is Chandan Singh ji or Thakur Saab, I really appreciate. This is the need of the hour. That this subjects prosecution and the penalties provision under the different law, whether it is income tax or the GST or the other Companies Act also, and responsibility of the professional and remedies thereof. Yes, there are the remedies available. Government is already in the process of easing out the business. Decriminalization has already started in the Companies Act. So many provisions has already been taken away to decriminalize the law, companies law. Same way, the thought process is going on with the government. It is not the crime. They have not, if anything has been done, though during the course of carrying out the business is the fundamental principle of the constitution. Business and profession, carrying out the business and profession is the fundamental right. And if we are into the profession of the chartered accountancy, so naturally we have been authorized by the government only, by the some law of the land only. And whatsoever we undertakes for the benefit of the clients, maybe something wrong has gone with, but that does not mean it is by intention, unless until the intention is been proven with, unless it is been proven in we have the hand holding in doing so, whatsoever the ill doing has been done with by the promoters or by the businessman. So it is not the penalization should be there with the profession. So that immunity should be there, like it is there with the government officials. It is with the government officials, even if they are not justified in their decision, but they have the immunity. But at the same time, we must, as a professional, we are in the growth of the profession. We are there as an economic professional for taking a lead in the generation of the revenue for the country. Though definitely there is a good, but I understand, and it is my to the best of my ability I can guess with these speakers and our guest of honor will be justifying the subjects, and which I really feel like the subject has come in. It has come in well thought also, and it is the need of the hour to deliberate on these subjects. but deliberation is the first step, and deliberations opens up the mind. It really goes to understand whatever the issues are there, and there is a remedies available for the, if anything which is wrong, which is not been there, which is required to be changes with, it is the government or the through the professional institution like ICI or the other institutions, wherever this hit is been there, which has been perceived with, which has been expected, which is been thought of. So it is basically for each and every participants. I would just like to share with each one of you, if we are this thought process has been started with. I appreciate the study circle. I appreciate the initiation uh, by whole of the team of the study circle and whosoever is the person behind it to in the thought process. The same process has been already been at a different platform where the professionals are not at fault. Why the professionals get these kind of challenges or the threats from the different investigating authorities under the different law, whether it is the GST or the income tax or the Companies Act or the different economic law. So one thing is very clear, it is already been brought into in the minds of the government also. It is very much in the, that is why in the Companies Act, so many provisions, so many section has been taken out or been amended accordingly, so that decriminalization should start coming into. Same way, whenever these things are there, so this will be duly taken care of. We must deliberate on it and we must take them forward for their proper remedies and the resolutions also. And we are there. I can only assure you as a professional fraternity member. I'm one of the member first and council member thereafter. It is not like you and me. We all are facing some kind of challenges and the threats. So we have to collectively go to the, being a council member, yes, I owe some responsibility. I have definitely, I will not go away from my responsibility to bring out to the whole of the council to take the matters forward and even to the government also. So that I'm not denying with, I'm with each one of you. Ki wherever need with me, but we have to understand what all are the issues, how it has to be taken forward, how it can be resolved with, how these things are there meant to be taken forward to the government and it is come to the conclusion, come to the results also. तो फ्रेंड्स एंड जुनेजा साहब ने जैसे बताया कि भाई एवरी प्रोफेशन इज बेसिकली हैविंग इट्स डिमार्केशन. It is not like if I am doing, I am not allowed to go to the Supreme Court. So I go to the, even then, though I am a chartered accountant, I am a company secretary also, I am an advocate also, I am an insolvency professional also. But in the different law, I am professing as a chartered accountant. Though I am by qualification, I am an advocate also, I am a company secretary also. I can profess simultaneously with the chartered accountants in insolvency professional also. I am insolvency professional also. It is the law whatsoever which allows you to undertake those activities. Like I am not allowed to present myself before any court of law except these tribunals and the tribunals and their appellate authorities. So where we are fully authorized and we have a knowledge of the law does not mean that we can undertake those kind of activities. Yes, these journalists, they go, you see like in the normal newspaper also, if you get into on a daily basis, there are certain news, most of the news are the fake news. Most of news are being interpreted which is not otherwise factual. So we have to look into, we have to get into the newspaper, yes, or the media, what the manner they deliberate, they discuss, even if there is a question on the electronic media also, if they, before going to the trial in the court, it becomes a trial. So it's the unfortunate part. But naturally, there is a course of action which one has to look at, like rightly advised by Juneja Saab, he will be taking this forward and this whosoever the paper, but it is a very old paper. It's a time-barred matter now. Though it has been circulated through the social media now also, but it is a very old case. So friends, I wish each and every participants a great learning from today, and wherever the issues are, we'll be taking it forward after deliberating or discussion with the convener, deputy convener, and our past founder conveners also. कि जहाँ पे भी आपको मेरी जरूरत पड़े, I am there with each one of you. Myself, I am fully committed for the profession. I am fully committed for each and every member, wherever personally or professionally you feel like where Hansraju can be of any help to you, or professionally to take any matter forward to the government, to the ICI, to the leadership. I am always there without even a single, any second thought. Only that assurance can be there from to each and every friend of mine from the branch also, from the study circle, and from the fraternity also. So with these words, I wish this program will go a long understanding of the issues, understanding of the challenges and the threats of, to the profession on the different subjects. And I'm firm enough कि दास साहब हैं, हमारे राकेश गुप्ता जी हैं, हमारे जो दूसरे स्पीकर जो हमारे खेमका साहब हैं, they are strong enough to make each and everyone understands with yes, what is wrong, what is right, and where it is wrong, that has to be taken forward to the next level to bring out to the functionaries or to bring out to the right forum, so that ultimately we get the remedies and the resolution thereof. So with these words, I'm again to the our urban estate study circle for their kind enough. I'm very grateful and thankful to them for inviting me on this. Though I'll not, I did not like as a chief guest. I am just as a friend to each one of you. I'm here. And DC गर्ग साहब से मैं स्पेशल रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा और हमारे जुनेजा साहब से और गोयल साहब से ये भाई मुझे जो है ना चीफ गेस्ट का जो है तमका मत दो, हमें तो अपने दोस्तों वाली कैटेगरी में जो है रखना, और कभी भी आपको
सर दोस्तों में भी तो कोई न कोई जैसे खेलते थे ना, कोई चोर बन रहा है, कोई सिपाही बन रहा है, तो कोई चोर नहीं हो गया, कोई सिपाही नहीं हो गया, तो सर दिस इज काइंड ऑफ वेबिनार एंड a formal organization, so someone has to play a role, राजा का, रानी का, नौकर का, चोर का, तो दिस इज a role we all are playing, So,
गर्ग साहब आप बार बार चोर क्यों कह रहे हो?
चोर सिपाही कर रहा हूँ सर, मैं सिपाही कर रहा हूँ।
थैंक यू गर्ग साहब, थैंक यू वेरी मच। तो मैं जो है ना गर्ग साहब आपसे माफी इसलिए चाहूंगा, मैंने जैसे बताया कि मैं कहीं और हूँ, नहीं तो मैं पूरा 2 घंटे आपके साथ रहता।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
आप जब भी इसके पॉइंट्स हों आप मुझे ब्रीफ करिएगा, मैं डेफिनेटली जो है
जरूर सर, जरूर आपको भेजेंगे, सब कुछ बना के भेजेंगे सर।
तो मैं धन्यवाद करूंगा कि हमारे दास साहब को जो है आफ्टर ए लॉन्ग टाइम आई कैन सी, दो इट इज वर्चुअल, दो जो है, और हमारे राकेश भाई को तो चलो आजकल हर जगह छाए हुए हैं, राकेश भाई पूरे इंडिया के अंदर और हमेशा छाए रहते हैं, प्रोफेशन की इतना सेवा करते हैं, तो आई एम वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू हिम आल्सो। और हमारे खेमका साहब से भी हमारा आज परिचय हो गया, दो आई मेट हिम बिफोर आल्सो, एंड आप सबका भी धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सर आपके, थैंक यू फॉर योर वर्ड्स ऑफ विजडम एंड डेफिनेटली वी विल सी। सर देखो, जिससे उम्मीद होती है उसी को पुकारा जाता है मुसीबत की घड़ी में, तो हमें ऐसी उम्मीद थी जुग साहब हमारी मदद करेंगे, तो जुग साहब को हमने पुकारा, जुग साहब हमारे हाजिर हो गए हैं, तो धन्यवाद सर। हम आपको ट्रबल देते रहेंगे और हम इस सेमिनार के बाद कंपाइल करके सारी क्वेरीज को आपको भेजेंगे, हमारी क्या प्रॉब्लम्स हैं। थैंक यू सर फॉर योर काइंड अटेंडेंस टू दिस वेबिनार। थैंक यू सर।
Please further proceed.
Sir, now I'll request Das Saab, Dr. Das. So sir, please proceed. And sir, now I'll request Rakesh Gupta ji and Amit ji, मतलब see आपस में आप देख लीजिए सर, because कौन सा query कैसे कैसे करना है, because that technically that has to be handled by
you all.
आपको करना है जी सर।
Thank you, Mr. Garg. It is nice and kind of you to invite me, and nice of Dr. Rakesh Gupta to tell me to speak a few words. Frankly, all of you are professional brothers. Ever since I was in income tax, I have been interacting with chartered accountants and lawyers, and they are practically family for me, because we are all professionals one way or other. And I must say, the subject that was chosen, not barely prosecution and penalties, but responsibilities of the professionals and how to prevent it. It is really very, very topical. It is very focused. And indeed, because of this, I have joined to hear Dr. Rakesh Gupta and Amit Khemka on this subject. So I am not here to speak at all. Then let me tell you, this is an unnecessary controversy that is probably being aired about. Professionals like chartered accountants are very useful for a growing economy like India. With their deep knowledge in various fields, capital market, taxation, they're jack of all trades practically. Legal, foreign exchange law, corporate laws, they provide immense assistance to businesses, which very few people can provide. And I have seen them as problem solver for businesses, industry, and also for the economy in many cases. And my long years in tax policy division in the Government of India, right from the time of Dr. Manmohan Singh, right, Chidambaram, then Jaswant Sinha and Jaswant Singh. I have seen luminaries amongst chartered accountant advising in various committees, and their voices are heard with attention, respect, and they were carried through. So that is very important. But there is a disadvantage too. When goings become bad for a corporate or something, goings become rough, then sometimes CAs find themselves in the dock, along with the corporate leaders. And I have seen often that is for wrong reasons, and once in a while, it is justified also. So the CAs understand the dynamics, who transgress the lines, who transgress the ethics that you study, young CAs study. The moment you transgress ethics, then only issue of a prosecution can touch a CA, otherwise it cannot. When I was member in a appellate tribunal, money laundering tribunal, then I have seen how CAs were assisting almost as well or sometimes better the issues of money laundering, money trail than their counterparts, the lawyers could. Indeed, we were happy to see CA lawyers to take us through a particular case, because their understanding was much better. And in economic offences, which are different from other offences, the CAs can play a very pivotal role. See, these economic offences are not same as other criminal offences. There are distinctions. The first distinction is, guilty, I'll speak in a common man's language, in addition to guilty mind, there are guilty facts necessary in economic offences. Then object is always for material advantage or to reduce material loss. And it is invariably done by white color people, upper class people. So in that view of the matter, the issues that involve the prosecution are very important, and it is the CH. They should play a pivotal role while advising the businesses, industries, corporates to ensure that this neither their clients nor they themselves become target of such prosecution. And how so? Now, Dr. Rakesh Gupta and Amit Khemka will explain. I was very brief, and only that I wanted Dr. Rakesh Gupta to speak, Khemka Sahab to speak, and so that I can listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, and I'll take the reins from Dr. Dash. Thank you, my very own friends. I mean, this is a very unique program, unique in many respects. It is presided over by Dr. R.N. Dash. I have had the privilege of being in his company since last couple of years. And I really wondered and thought myself unlucky as to why and how did I not come in his contact earlier. But then better late than never. And I tell you, I mean, the kind of exposure and experience which Dr. Dash has had working very closely to the personalities like Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, Mr. Chidambaram. I mean, that I think the objective or the theme of this deliberations was that these penalties and prosecutions, not from the standpoint of the SSEs, but penalties and prosecutions which the professionals, chartered accountants, company secretaries, or cost accountants have to endure or run the risk because of their professional obligations being discharged by these professionals. And in that process, that risk of being prosecuted or penalized at the end of the chartered accountants, probably that was the theme. But anyway, I mean, since we all have understood that theme, and therefore we deliberate only on those aspects. Now, since I have practiced as chartered accountant for substantial part of my life, if not more, but then equal part of my life, 20 years almost as chartered accountant, and then followed by as a lawyer. Therefore, I can visualize as to what are the risks which we professionals run. But then one thing which I would say that we chartered accountants or other professionals do it on behalf of and for the benefit and for our clients. And therefore, since it is done for and on their behalf on the strength of a duly executed power of attorney, by which certain actions are allowed to be done by us, therefore, I mean, apart from that professional relationship, there is a relationship of principal and agency. And therefore, in that light, now whether the default committed by our client can be ascribed, can be imputed, can be arrogated, can be linked to the chartered accountant, so as to throw them in the rigmarole of the, all these kind of prosecutions. Now, since whatever little I know, though we have got the benefit of Mr. Amit Khemka, now he would extensively take us to various facets of prosecutions, various facets of criminal law, which the chartered accountants and other professionals, run the risk of being confronted. But since I deal only the income tax, therefore, I will quickly make out a certain point. Now, there is one penalty, I mean, which can be levied on the professionals and particularly on the chartered accountant, is penalty under section 271 capital J. I mean, I will referring only those things which we as the chartered accountants, I mean, are prone to be burdened with, not as an SSE. So 271 capital J, now you can say, is one of the professional hazards with which, I mean, we are all beset. When there is any incorrect information supplied or furnished by a chartered accountant in the report or in the certificate which is to be furnished in any proceedings before the assessing officer with the commissioner appeal, then the assessing officer and the commissioner appeals, they have been endowed with this power to inflict a penalty under section 271 capital J. But of course, after hearing you, after giving you the show cause as to why the penalty should not be imposed, and that is ingrained into the provisions of section 274 subsection 1. So this is the first professional hazard in terms of the penalty. The second penalty, I mean, which can be there on the chartered accountants primarily, is when as a witness, chartered accountants are called by the assessing officer or for that matter by the investigation wing pursuant to the summon under section 131 subsection 1 or under section 131 subsection 1 capital A, and non-compliance is made. Non-compliance in terms of the personal depositions or the appearance or production of the required books of accounts, I mean, having not been met or having not been made, now we render ourselves liable for the penalty for the non-compliance under section 272A subsection 1 clause C, and that penalty can be imposed by the joint commissioner of the joint DI, and which is rupees 10,000 rupees. But then kindly mind it, I mean, one should not harbor this kind of a belief and impression that 10,000 rupees is the final and the ultimate cost. This 10,000 rupees is the penalty for each default. So whatever number of defaults, I mean, will be there on account of the non-compliances, I mean, this penalty under section 272A subsection 1 clause C is there. Now there is another penalty now which is the product of the recent insertions by the Finance Act 2020, and that penalty is section 271 AAD. Now this penalty is very harsh, and it is applicable not only to the chartered accountant, but then it is applicable to any person who enables a person to either omit any entry or to enter any false entry in the books of account. So if any person, be it a chartered accountant for that matter, anybody, howsoever high and mighty that person may be, now if he is found by the income tax officer, the assessing officer, that he has led or he has enabled or he has caused the other person to enter any false entry or to omit any entry from the books of account, then of course the aggregate amount of such false entries or such omitted entries will be the amount of penalty which has been contemplated under section 271 AAD. So I would not say that this penalty can be imposed on a chartered accountant in the capacity of a chartered accountant, but that in the capacity of a person, because I do not expect any chartered accountant to enable any person to make any false entry or to omit any entry. So, but then the exposure of this penalty, I mean, has to be borne in mind. Though there are other penalties which can be imposed on any person, including chartered accountants, but then in the capacity of the chartered accountant being an SSE. But before I come to a very important thing with which many of us may not be aware, now I want to spell out one strong defense mechanism which is there under section 273 capital B. And that section 273 capital B, barring section 271 AAD penalty, now offers you a very strong defense mechanism, not only to you but then to any person on whom the penalty is proposed to be imposed, that if that person on whom the charge is made that he has committed a particular default, if he can show that there was a reasonable cause for the commission of a default, then the penalty may not be imposed. That is what the import of section 273 capital B. And therefore, in respect of our cases or in respect of our SSE's cases, wherever we all are confronted with this kind of a situation where the charge is made that we have committed the default or our SSEs have committed the default, then we can explore the possibility of invoking the defense mechanism as given and enshrined in section 273 capital B. Now I will come to that aspect of a matter which I believe, though I wish that I may prove to be wrong, that we may not be aware. And that provision is there under section 288 subsection 4. As all of us know, that section 288 is a section by which we chartered accountants are given this power or this right to represent our SSE before the tax authorities. Now subsection 4 of section 288 says that if a penalty under any provision of the act has been imposed on a chartered accountant other than the penalty for the non-compliance of a notice under section 142(1), which used to be there earlier under section 271 subsection 1 clause B, and now which has been rechristened as section 272A subsection 1 clause D. Now barring that penalty, if any penalty has been imposed, then section 288 subsection 4 says that the chartered accountant is liable to be declared by passing an order by the commissioner or the chief commissioner as not eligible to do practice for a particular number of years as may be determined by that officer, having regard to all facts and circumstances. Though the right of appeal is there against this kind of an order to be passed by the commissioner, the chief commissioner, before the board within a period of 30 days. But then this kind of disability, I mean, I also used to harbor this belief before I read this section that this disability is only there where the penalty on account of the concealment of income was levied, but it's not like this. Any penalty which is imposed on a chartered accountant other than the penalty for the non-compliance of a notice under section 142 or 143(2) now would render the chartered accountant from conducting, the practice. And of course, if a chartered accountant has been held to be professionally misconduct, then in that situation also, whatever disabilities the disciplinary committee provides, that will be applicable in case of the chartered accountant doing practice before the tax authorities. He will be barred from appearing before the tax authorities accordingly. So this aspect, and it is not necessary that this penalty is imposed on a chartered accountant while he is acting as a chartered accountant, but then even in his own individual case, if this penalty, comes to be, or if a chartered accountant is found guilty to be of fraud, then also, because since that is a very rare kind of a situation, therefore I have not dealt with. But then if we read section 288 subsection 4 and subsection 5, this kind of disability is there, so we have to be very mindful. Now a couple of more things I would speak about as to what I have seen. Now regarding the survey and searches, chartered accountants, like their own clients, because of a very closer economic and the professional relationship, now have become prone for the survey and searches. Therefore, this aspect needs to be taken care of, because survey and searches, then they entail several other consequences in times to come. So this kind of a thing now will have to be borne in mind while you practice as a chartered accountant. And you can advise your client that no false or incorrect statement should be made at the time of survey that the books of accounts or the stocks or the cash wholly or partly is kept at chartered accountant's place, because then the chartered accountant's place on the basis of this statement becomes an extended place of this list. And I have seen many times the clients or their accountants or any other person who are attending the affairs of that client that point of time, out of their fear, out of their dispelling the pressure, they just say that the books of accounts are kept at chartered accountant place. Now this one statement is enough to cause insurmountable amount of hardships and harassment to the chartered accountant that should be avoided, and therefore our clients need to be told this thing in advance. Regarding the search, now there is a wrong feeling that whenever a client is searched, then so are his chartered accountant. It's not like this. When the competent authority in possession of certain information has reason to believe as to the existence of the conditions section 132 subsection 1, only then the warrant of search is issued. And I can say, with whatever little I know, that the warrant of search is not issued mechanically. Dr. R.N. Dash, he himself has been the Director General. He can vouch for it. I mean, because that authority is quite responsible authority. They have to be satisfied on the basis of the material in possession of the departmental authorities, on the basis of which the satisfaction has to be arrived at. And then they are conscious about this fact that tomorrow, if they are called upon before the court to justify their action of issuing warrant of search, then they should be in a position to support the action of search having been taken against a particular person. But then it must be taken care of. Again, this is also a professional hazard for the chartered accountant because of the very closer economic ties and closer professional relationships with the client. And I tell you, in the morning when Amitji and I were talking, Amitji was saying that the chartered accountants, wittingly or unwittingly, come very close to their clients, unlike the lawyers, because the lawyers always remain at arm's length most of the times. But since I have practiced as chartered accountant, I have practiced as lawyers, and I have seen the wide spectrum of professionals and their association and relationship with the clients. Now, I can say that the relationship of a chartered accountant with their clients is unique. And the clients do share such confidential things with his chartered accountant, which that client does not even think to share with his family members. And since this relationship grows over the years because of the continued interactions year after year, so chartered accountant becomes a part of the family of the client. And since he becomes family of the client because of this professional reason, now that becomes sometimes the reason for the chartered accountant to suffer also. Because when the ties, family ties and the economic ties, I mean, take this level of turn, I mean, then when the warrant of search is is issued by, I mean, that depends upon, of course, the facts of each case, but then that becomes, I mean, a reason for the search also in certain situations. So that aspect has to be taken care of. Now, regarding the privileged communications with their clients, now is not available with chartered accountant, which is available with lawyers, though it may cause a great sense and a great amount of heartburn amongst the chartered accountant as to why this privilege is not there. Now, in fact, the chartered accountants basically are the master of facts, and the facts have to be stated as they are. I always say the facts are like the arguments of God, and the chartered accountants, being specialized in facts, I mean, they are near to God. So this protection of the communication between a client and the chartered accountant now has not been envisaged and is not required either under the provisions of law, and there should not be any reason for us to feel any jealous or envious of this kind of the absence of, I mean, this kind of a privilege under the Indian Evidence Act which the advocates are enjoying. Then tax audit report. Now, in the tax audit report, it is the combination of the reporting of facts and the reporting of inferences. Now, reporting of facts, as I said, now since facts are the one, therefore they have to be reported, I mean, without any ambivalence, without any dichotomy, inconsistency, contradiction, or without any kind of a dither. And in case, I mean, it is found at some stage by any authority that the facts reported in the tax audit, or for that matter in any certificate, are not correct, then it entails severe consequences, not only under the Income Tax Act, but then in under the disciplinary proceedings under the Institute's Code of Ethics. So far as inference reporting is concerned, then in that situation, now depending upon the legal position and by disclosing the stand which you have taken, I mean, you can now end up in reporting a tax audit, and in that situation no fault can be found. Now, one more thing I want to share with my chartered accountant friends, and which I have seen with my own eyes as my if not routine experience, but then it is not something, I mean, which is not there. It is there. I have found, and I want to caution my chartered accountants friend. Now, many times we chartered accountants are swayed by some small considerations, and those small considerations are in the form of some representations before some authority. Now, one chartered accountant who represented a case before, say, a tribunal, and then may have made some concessions before the tribunal. And based upon his concession and admission, the tribunal has given some verdict, and of course, against that SSE. Later on, that SSE goes to another chartered accountant and shows him the order of the tribunal. And then this chartered accountant, he asks, now where is the power of attorney which was given by you to the first chartered accountant who purportedly made some concessions before the tribunal? Now this SSE says there was no power of attorney in writing which was given. I have seen, if not very many times, but then these instances are not uncommon. The successive chartered accountant, he files miscellaneous petition to bulldoze his predecessor on the ground and on the pretext that there was no power which was given to the earlier chartered accountant who made concessions before you, and therefore the concession made by him cannot be said to be valid in law. Now, by saying and by bulldozing your predecessor, one may score a goal for the time being, one may win a client, but the profession loses in that battle. Because after all, if a chartered accountant has appeared before the tribunal, may not be on the strength of the written power of attorney, but then why would and why should one waste one's time, energy, for somebody else's case, unless he was directed, or he was directed implicitly by the client to go and represent it. Now in that case, the bottom line or the fallout or the downslide or the downside of this exercise is, now the tribunal becomes a suspicious in respect of every chartered accountant, and when the tribunal loses that faith, or for that matter any court loses the faith from or on a professional and asks, first of all, you prove whether you have got a power or not. Now it is something which impinges upon the credibility of the profession as a whole. Therefore, we as a chartered accountant must ensure that such kind of instances are not done. Now thereafter, there are now provisions of prosecution, now which though Amitji would take upon, but as a chartered accountant in the capacity of the professional hazard, now I could list out 3 sections under which there may be problem of prosecution. And first is section 276 capital D, whereby I have seen on the ground, and Amitji probably is dealing with that kind of a case where a chartered accountant friend now is sought to be proceeded and prosecuted by the tax department, by the assessing officer under section 276D on the ground that the books of account, just a minute, 276D on the ground that there was a failure to produce accounts and documents. Now in that case, what happened, though Amitji can throw light when he would speak. Now assessing officers summoned the SSE and asked that I have given you the notice to produce a particular agreement, why have you not produced it? Now that SSE said or was made to say, I do not know, but the fact of the matter is there is a statement recorded on oath of that person in which he has said that I gave this agreement to my chartered accountant 6 months back, and I do not know why has he not produced. Now, despite even in the face of such kind of a statement made by the client, the chartered accountant could not have been prosecuted under section 276 capital D, but then the assessing officer took upon the task and initiated prosecution against the chartered accountant under this section. Now that is a different matter, that ultimately that prosecution will fail. But I always say that the prosecution may fail, but by the time it fails, it is a very traumatic experience for one to undergo. Because once the ball or the snowball of the prosecution is set in motion, now when would it stop? God knows. So 276D, I found one section which you as a chartered accountant, though technically, may not be hauled up or may not be prosecuted under the section, but then there is a live case on our hands. Another is falsification of books of accounts or documents. Now this section was added in 2004, and I do remember very vividly that there was a lot of hue and cry, because now this section I says that anybody, I mean, who abates or who leads a person to do falsification of the books of accounts or the documents or any entries, now he is liable to be prosecuted. So, I mean, as a chartered accountant, there may be a problem. Though any chartered accountant, for that matter, should not be indulging into any action which leads to the falsification books of accounts or document. But then this is there. Then there is abatement of false return under section 278, that anybody induces a person, I mean, to furnish some wrong information or incorrect informations, I mean, that lead to the escapement of income, then abatement of false return. Now, I mean, that also is a charge or prosecution which may keep on haunting, I mean, is chartered accountant. So, friends, now I would request Amit ji, I mean, with this background which I have laid, I mean, to speak as to how the professionals, I mean, can reduce the rigor of these professional hazards, not only under the income tax, but then under the IPC. Amit ji, I know, I mean, I have seen very few people, and Amit ji is one of them, now who has got an equal command over the civil law and the criminal law. And I am fortunate to be his friend, childhood friend. We used to study together right from 7th class at my native place, Kosi. But then the way he has come up and the kind of trial which he has faced and has led is commendable. So Amit ji, now the entire floor is there. The questions which have been flashed by DC Garg Sahab, I mean, when you will take up, then I can also join. So over to Amit ji.
Thank you, Rakesh ji. You have left out one very important qualification which I have, and that is of being your partner. So I do not know why you left that most important qualification. So thank you, Rakesh ji, for such kind words. Thank you, DC Garg Sahab. Thank you, Juneja ji. Thank you, PD Bhagwan Das ji. And thank you all the members of Faridabad branch for inviting me. It is always a pleasure to talk to and to interact with such a distinguished people from such a distinguished profession. I am always very, I always feel that how you people can work so hard, not only for passing and becoming a chartered accountant, and then also you continue to work so hard throughout your life. So it is always an inspiration to see a fellow professional colleagues who can work really so hard. And then what really impresses me is that the chartered accountants are continuously wanting to learn more and more. Someone might say that you want to become a lawyer also, you want to become a finance professional also, you want to become, like Aryan Das Sahab said, that you are playing multiple roles. But in lighter vein, one can say that you want to capture all professions as well. But that is what you deserve. Each one of you deserves to do that because you are working hard for it. Questions coming to the topic of today. DC Garg Sahab talked to me and he said that we want to know how to handle the police or the fake frivolous complaints. What are the legal rights available to the professionals? And there is a trend today that whenever there is a financial fraud, there are chartered accountants who are implicated. It is absolutely a worry, the cases of financial frauds and financial or economic offenses which we are handling. Almost in every second case, there is some professional who has been arraigned as co-accused. Either a chartered accountant or a company secretary or a financial person, somebody in some capacity is arraigned as an accused. So this is of course a matter of great pain. it is of course a matter of great worry that while people of profession are performing their professional duties, why should they be implicated in such fashion? The question also arises that whether are we talking about those chartered accountants who are actually who have become part of the commission of the offense? DC Garg Saab was very kind right in the very beginning to say that we are not talking of the chartered accountants who have taken part in commission of the offense. We do not, Mr. Garg very categorically said that we do not want to save those people who have become part knowingly or unknowingly of an offense. What has happened is that since the liberalization of economy took place in last 3 decades, the license quota Raj was given a go by. As the things became lenient, as the business environment and tax legal environment became more lenient, there were more people who took benefit of it. And resultantly, the legislature had to come out with more and more stringent provisions over the last 30 years in order to regulate. And somehow the bureaucracy of our country and the legislature thinks that converting every wrong into a crime is a sure short way to check the wrongs. I may agree with that, I may not agree with that. But the fact remains that the situation is that almost in every act which is now legislated, almost in every law which is now legislated, severe prosecution provisions are included. Whether it is the new GST law, whether it is the new Benami law, whether it is the prevention of money laundering, all these acts and Companies Act. Now, in all these acts, there are very, very stringent provisions dealing with the offenses. The chartered accountants are the key persons who actually deal with all the financial matters of the client. And as Dr. Rakesh Gupta said, that over the period, because you have some of the clients who are your clients for the equal number of years as you are in the profession. So these people, over the period, you start identifying yourself with them. You stop treating them as clients. You stop working at an arm's length approach. And the result is that certain practices are adopted which must not be adopted. I will come to those practices when we talk of the remedies. But my first submission would be that what is necessary is, because these economic offenses are unlike the normal IPC offenses. They are in the normal IPC offenses, we all know that the prosecution must stand on its own legs. The prosecution must prove to the beyond benefit of doubt. The statement given to the police is not admissible in evidence. Everybody knows all these things. But when it comes to the economic offenses, the law has been turned on its head, if I may use such strong words. The onus to prove has been shifted. The statements given to the authorities are treated as statements given in judicial proceedings. They are admissible in evidence. That's another thing, that what is the value of those statements. But the fact remains that So all these offenses are entirely different from the IPC offenses. Therefore, it becomes necessary, especially for the chartered accountants, to at least have a fair idea, at least have a reasonable idea about the offenses. If you, for example, take Income Tax Act, you have offenses under the Income Tax Act for not cooperating with the officers, for not following certain orders under one section 132, for removal of a property to thwart tax recovery, non-deposit of tax, TDS or TCS, willful evasion of tax, willful evasion to pay tax, willful failure to furnish returns, false statements in verification. Similarly, you have similar provisions under the Black Money Act, where evasion to pay the tax and tax on the assets, foreign assets, or for foreign income, or evasion of tax on the foreign income and assets, or non-disclosure of the foreign income and assets in the returns, or not filing the returns in respect of the foreign income and assets. Now, these offenses are, one has to have a fair idea of as to what are the offenses under these acts. But also you have to have a fair idea as to what kind of offenses these are. For example, in the Income Tax Act and the Black Money Act, while the department has to prove the offense, but wherever a mental state is required, wherever, for example, the law says willful evasion to pay tax. Now, willful is the mental state. Now, wherever this mental state is required, the onus to own, there is a presumption of the mental state, which has been provided under the law, which means to prove the otherwise is upon the accused, upon the person who has been accused. Now, these provisions, whether there is an onus to prove on the accused or not, and to what extent that onus to prove is on the accused, has to be understood. One also has to understood that whether, for example, under the Income Tax Act, is there any power to arrest? So the answer to that is that there is no power to arrest under the Income Tax Act with the authorities. Similarly, the investigation in this case can only be conducted by the income tax officers and not by the police. All the offenses under the Income Tax Act are also compoundable offenses. Similarly,
Amitji, if I am permitted to, because we are racing against time, if you can straightway take upon those things, I mean, which chartered accountants face because of, I mean, certain acts of omissions, commissions, and I mean, the issues which Garg Sahab has flashed. I mean, I think
in 5-10 minutes, we can straight away take up the issues itself. We can do that. Now, what I basically wanted to say was that it is important to understand the powers of the authorities so far as the statements are concerned. Now, all these authorities under the economic laws have been given the powers to record the statements, that process of recording of a statement is treated as judicial proceeding. And as such, these statements are admissible in evidence as such. While on the other hand, a statement given to a police officer under section 160 read with 161 of CRPC is not admissible in evidence, though the law says that even this statement will require corroboration, and it is a very weak type of evidence. However, the fact remains that one has to understand, especially the chartered accountants have to understand, the nature of the statements which are being recorded by all these authorities, whether the GST authorities or whether the income tax authorities or whether the SFIO under the Companies Act. Now, these authorities, when they are recording the statement, these statements are admissible in evidence. Similarly, one has to understand that whether these authorities can arrest or not, because so many times the department is trying, or the investigating agency is trying to force the chartered accountant to become a witness. They may not be actually wanting to implicate the chartered accountant, but they might be forcing the chartered accountant to divulge certain things or become a witness in a certain case. Now, in that case, they might be trying to threaten you that we will arrest you or we will take such action. Now, the one has to understand that under the Income Tax Act, they have no power to arrest. Under the GST, they have the power to arrest in respect of certain offences. In Company Act, where a very wide definition has been given to the word fraud, and it is provided under various sections of the Companies Act that as to what is the fraud, and the punishment for that has been provided under section 447. SFIO again has been given the power to arrest, and in fact the power given to SFIO of arrest is a very it becomes a very stringent power, as because the bail under the Companies Act is not easily granted, as the provision there says that the court has to come to the conclusion at the initial stage itself that the crime has not been committed. Such a clause was there in the PMLA also, in money laundering law also, but that was struck down by the Supreme Court in Nikesh Tarach and Shah case. However, we are still waiting for the similar provision to be struck down under the Companies Act, and I'm very sure that as the identical provision was struck down under PMLA, it will also be struck down in Companies Act as well. So these are few things which the chartered accountants must know, that whether that officer who is threatening you to arrest or has the power even to arrest you or not, whether a particular offense, who has the onus of to prove to what extent that onus is there. Like for example, the culpable state is also
गर्ग साहब म्यूट कर दीजिए, सबको म्यूट कर दीजिए सर। म्यूट करेंगे।
Now, one has to understand that under the Income Tax Act, there is a presumption of mental state. Under GST, there is a presumption of mental state. But in Companies Act, there is no presumption of mental state. So these are the few things which one has to understand before you face any of these authorities. I would say in some way it is the duty of the chartered accountants or of any citizen to help out the investigating agencies, and that duty one has to perform, and one should not shy away, and one should not treat it as some kind of a harassment. However, it is the chartered accountants have, whenever they are in such a situation, it would always help if they understand these few things, that an officer maybe he is threatening you that he will arrest, but he doesn't have any such power. So that these kind of things can come very handy. Then there are offenses where, for example, in GST, where a police complaint has been made, where the FIR has been lodged for some kind of a forgery or fraud. So one has to understand that any statement given to the police has no evidentiary value. It cannot be straight away admitted in evidence. However, if such a statement leads to any kind of recovery of either of the even of a fact, then in that case that statement also becomes admissible in evidence. Then a question was raised by Garg Saab to me, that when the doctors, by way of the judgment of Jacob Matthew versus State of Punjab, when the Supreme Court has said that investigating officer, before proceeding against a doctor accused of rash or negligent or omission or obtain or a criminal act, must obtain an independent and competent medical opinion, preferably from a government doctor. I think why it should not be applicable to the case of chartered accountants as well. Personally speaking, I feel that it should at least be available to the auditors, because the job of the auditor is a very, very technical job. I was discussing with Rakesh Gupta ji that whether this, I mean, it is not everybody's job which the auditors perform. They perform a very, very specialized job. And when it comes to the audit job of the auditor, it should be, unless some other auditor or some other professional chartered accountant gives an opinion that the auditor has not performed his job in accordance with the standards prescribed, then only any such action should be taken against him. And especially when I cannot, there can be cases where the chartered accountants are straight away accomplices. I mean, there are maybe stray cases, but there are cases where the chartered accountants have actually played part in commission of or abetting that particular offense. But there are cases where they are performing their normal professional duty and still they have been roped in by the police or by any other agency. Now, in that case, I feel that if there can be such cases where they were only performing their professional duty, and the opinion should be taken, because after all, how can you expect a sub-inspector of police to understand the nitty-gritties of the chartered accountancy profession and the nitty-gritties of the law involved? There are few things which I have noticed during my profession and during my interaction with the chartered accountants. I'll very straight and very bluntly, just point them out. You must have noticed that the chartered accountants do not write, when they write on behalf of the client, they do not write in the pleadings or in the communications that they are writing on behalf of the client and on the basis of the information provided. Now, if you see any lawyer's pleadings or any lawyer's notice, he will always say that I'm giving this notice or I'm filing this plea on behalf of the client, and he will always take the signatures of the client. I have seen a number of times a chartered accountant will make communications to the department, write communications to the parties on behalf of the client, just because he has the power attorney. I will like, when the goings are good, everything is very good. But when the weather is bad, then all these things are pointed out, when all these things become relevant. So I will like everybody to specifically say, whenever any communication is being made, that this is being made on behalf of the client, upon the information being provided by him. Nowadays, it has become very easy for you to preserve the information provided by the client and preserve the proof that this information was provided by the client. For example, once you have made a draft of something, you can send a mail to the client and ask him to revert and confirm that, to approve that particular draft before you even send it. And to my mind, whenever you are making any communication, a copy thereof, countersigned by the client, should remain in your office. I came to know one of the chartered accountant friends. He had a habit of keeping the digital signatures of the clients. Now, he is keeping the digital signatures in his drawer. Now, my dear friends, how can you take such a big responsibility on your shoulder? Very frankly, this kind of, it is being done only to avoid a little bit of inconvenience. If you are doing it, you are exposing yourself to any such kind of allegation. You are exposing yourself to any kind of criminal implication. So I will feel that one has to work on the arm's length approach. One has to keep himself away from, sentimentally and physically away from the client. Keep a documentation of whatever information has been provided by the client. Most of the information now comes on the email. So you can always preserve that mail. You can always preserve that this is the information provided by the client to me. And you should always, in your pleadings, say that this is being said on behalf of the client, and preferably have the counter signature of the client, or at least have an email approval from the client of whatever you are doing. And I feel that this practice of keeping the digital signatures, or signing, initialing, keeping the letterheads of the client, and then putting his initials on the, I think that should be a complete no-no. That should never be done, which can always put you in some kind of a dock. Now, I'll, as Rakesh ji suggested, I will, as the time is running out, we can straight away come to the queries which DC Garg Sahab has sent to us. And I will, Garg Sahab, you will like to read the queries, or I should read the queries? Garg Sahab, your mic is mute.
I can read the query, sir.
Yeah, please do that.
Kemka sir? Kemka ji?
Yes, sir.
सर अभी आपने बताया था कि जो डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स हम रूटीन में रखते हैं अपने ऑफिस में, जनरली हर एक ऑफिस में, सीए के ऑफिस में होते हैं क्लाइंट की डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स। सर अभी तो उसमें क्या है कि जो रूटीन वर्क होते हैं, जैसे जीएसटी रिटर्न है जो हर महीने जाती है, जीएसटी 3BG हर महीने जा रही है, फिर जीएसटी 1 जाती है, तो ऐसे रूटीन वर्क में क्या ये पॉसिबल है बार बार डिजिटल सिग्नेचर मंगाए जाए फिर वापस किए जाए? इज इट पॉसिबल? प्लीज सजेस्ट सर।
Sir, I would say that you should upload that information, send the link to the client, and ask him to sign digitally. Okay. You should not even get it from him. Okay. He should do it.
अमित जी, इसका लॉजिक जब तक नहीं समझ में आएगा तब तक हमारी समझ में नहीं आएगा।
सर लॉजिक ये है, once it is proved that you had the digital signatures in your possession, that means the client did not verify the contents, or client did not have the opportunity to verify the contents of that document. If he signs in from his IP address, from his office, then in that case there is no problem. He will be responsible. And what does it take? I think it is only because of the convenience sake we are taking such a big risk upon our shoulders, upon our head.
अब समझ में आया ना?
जी सर, जी सर।
Sir, shall I start? So shall I start raising queries? Sir, first query, BGM members ने CAA applied for GST registration on behalf of his client Mr. X through his office. Mr. X provided all the information including address. Later on verification by the GST department, the address is found to be incorrect, unverifiable. GST department filed criminal complaint against CAA for forgery of address. Now CAA is being called by police again and again.
Sir, once you filed the return from your IP address, of course the police is bound to conduct the investigation. The investigation has to be carried out, and you are the one who has to tell as to who provided you that address. Rather, you have to prove that it is that client who has to be identifiable. That client has to be identifiable. Now, all the information, and nowadays I would say it is very easy. It should there has to be one email ID of the client, which is a registered email ID. You must insist on getting all the documents from the client through that email, registered email ID itself. Thereafter, the police cannot touch you if you just have to give those emails that this is the client, these are the emails which I received from the client, and on the basis of these emails, this is the registered email ID of this person, and I have done it.
I have received address on this email ID, and this is the correct address. I have not verified. Simple.
You are not supposed to verify. You are not supposed to go and verify the address of that client.
नहीं सर, क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि पुलिस वाले को समझ में नहीं आता, वो दोबारा से दोबारा बोला, आ जाओ गोयल साहब, आ जाओ गर्ग साहब, आ जाओ खेमका साहब, जरा बता दो। फिर मतलब बेसिकली हरेसमेंट होता है ना, उसमें क्या है कि
गर्ग साहब सर, now if somebody wants to be heard to say that he will not be asked to join investigation by the investigating officer, then I will feel sorry.
अच्छा.
Now this is the price or cost you can feel and believe that this is the price of we being born in India. Now, since we having been born in India, this is the system we all will have to. Now, in case you find that you are being harassed, but then you can go administratively. But then how to refuse the investigating officer's demand to appear for a reasonable time?
सर एक क्वेश्चन और है कि क्या कोई भी पुलिस ऑफिसर या कोई फोन करके बुला सकता है? उसको प्रॉपर सम्मान नहीं देना चाहिए?
No sir, he cannot call you by phone.
लेकिन प्रैक्टिकली तो सर बुलाते हैं.
सर प्रैक्टिकली देखो,
तो उसमें क्या कहना चाहिए सर? जैसे मान लो अगर फोन करके बुला ले, आ जाओ ठाकुर साहब, आपसे आपके खिलाफ कंप्लेंट है, तो जरा बताओ, तो उस केस में क्या करना चाहिए? हाउ टू रिएक्ट?
सर थोड़े से वकील बनो ना सर.
दिस इज बेसिकली पॉइंट यही है सर, पॉइंट यही है कि हाउ टू रिएक्ट.
तो यही सीखना चाहते हैं, यही सीखना चाहते हैं कि हम इस टाइप से अगर कोई हमें कॉल करके बुलाता है तो हम कैसे उन्हें हैंडल करें.
तो नहीं ये बोलना चाहिए सर, आप राइटिंग में दे दो.
If you are not at fault, you tell him to send your notice and you will appear.
अच्छा, मतलब ये ऐसा तो नहीं है वो annoyed हो जाएगा फिर और कुछ?
You want to have cake and eat it too. नाराज तो कोई आदमी की बात पे हो सकता है गर्ग साहब.
नहीं सर, मेरा कहने का मतलब ये कि फोन, टेलीफोन क्या कम्युनिकेशन नहीं है आज की डेट में?
प्यार से भी उसे कहा जा सकता है कि बॉस, यू आर कॉलिंग अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, आई एम नॉट द एक्यूज्ड, सो व्हाई डोंट यू सेंड अ नोटिस टू मी, आई विल अपीयर.
नहीं, मेरा एक ये है कि भाई आज के जमाने में मैंने व्हाट्सएप पे भेज रहा हूँ, आप आ जाइए, तो ये भी तो नोटिस हो गया. तो वो
नोटिस है सर.
अच्छा, नहीं, मैं सर समझने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ सर लीगलिटीज.
अगर आपको व्हाट्सएप पे या ईमेल पे नोटिस आया है, then it is a perfect service.
ओके, नहीं नोटिस नहीं आया, उन्होंने कहा प्लीज मिस्टर गर्ग, प्लीज आई वांट टू नो समथिंग इन कनेक्शन विद दिस क्वेरी. तो
send you a notice, he has to specify under the exercise of which section he is calling you.
ठीक है सर, मतलब ये we can write like this ना,
documents, or it is under 160 to record the statement.
ठीक है सर, मतलब बेसिकली हम यही जानना चाह रहे हैं कि भाई कैसे हम हाउ टू डील विद सच काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशंस.
इसका जो मेन वो है, वो ये है कि आपने वो डॉक्यूमेंट्स अपने आईपी एड्रेस से अपलोड किए.
बिल्कुल ठीक है. और मेरा तो सर एक और है पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस
फ्रॉम द क्लाइंट्स आईपी एड्रेस, देन यू वुड नेवर हैव बीन इन दिस प्रॉब्लम.
ठीक बात है सर. नहीं वो तो देखो, अब जैसे मान लो जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन अपने आईपी से ही करेगा आदमी, और कहां से लाएगा सर? जब अपने ऑफिस से कर रहा है तो अपना आपका आईपी एड्रेस ही यूज करेगा.
Have all the documents verified and countersigned by the client.
Right sir. Sir, should I go to next query?
Yes sir.
A CAA filed GST refund on behalf of his client Mr. X on the basis of information provided by Mr. X. Later on, GST department find that the GST refund has been claimed wrongly, fraudulently on the basis of forged document. GST department filed criminal complaint against CAA and Mr. X. CA को भी इम्प्लीकेट कर लिया सर उन्होंने X के साथ।
सर सेम आंसर है सर।
सेम, ठीक है सर। थर्ड सर, Mr. P, non-CA, non-CS, non-CMA, providing services of bank finance. In the process of getting finance for QRM Limited, Mr. P submitted forged financial statement purportedly have been signed by CAB. On verification through ROC or some third sources, bank found these financial statement as forged one and filed criminal complaint with police against Mr. P, QRM Limited and CAB. Now CAB is being harassed by police without his fault.
Sir, it is not clear in the question as to what was found. You know, you are saying it was found forged.
सर एक्चुअली पता क्या होता है, जनरली मैंने देखा है जो नॉन सीएज होते हैं उसमें मेरे को कोई हेजिटेशन नहीं है ऐसे कहने में, जिनको थोड़ी ट्रेनिंग मिली हुई होती है या सेमी क्वालिफाइड होते हैं वो सारा प्रोसेस तो समझते ही हैं, सिर्फ वो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट नहीं है, तो वो किसी का भी नाम लिख के मेंबरशिप नंबर उनको पता होता है, वो बुकी मार के दे देते हैं। अब क्या है कि किसी को अथॉरिटी को तो ये पता नहीं है कि ये डीसी के सामने नहीं साइन किया हुआ या खेमका साहब ने साइन नहीं किया हुआ, ठाकुर साहब ने नहीं या गुप्ता जी ने नहीं किया हुआ, तो वो तो अपेरेंटली ये कहेंगे ना भाई गर्ग साहब आ जाओ आप, तो हालांकि वो तो बाद का वो है मेरा कि जी मैंने तो साइन नहीं किया हुआ।
मैं इसका आंसर देता हूँ।
जी।
देखो इसमें दो बातें हैं। नंबर वन, दैट द डिपार्टमेंट फाउंड दैट रिपोर्ट इनकरेक्ट, करेक्ट?
हाँ।
The contents of the report were found incorrect, one.
जी।
And second was that the signatures on that report of the chartered accountant was forged.
जी।
Second one.
The second one. So
जी sir.
The second thing, and on the basis of his forged signatures, the agency is alleging that he is the one who has given this report, this false report.
जी।
Now, the chartered accountant is supposed to show his actual signatures, give in writing to the agency that these are my admitted signatures. You get them verified from the FSL or CFSL and check whether they are my signatures or not. And once that till that is done, you cannot allege that they are my signatures unless they have to be proved to be my signatures, because I am denying those signatures.
Garg sahab, I equate this situation like this. You did not sign any check, but somebody forged your signatures on check and withdrew money from the bank.
Yes sir, yeah.
What action and what pleadings you will take? I mean the same pleadings you will take here.
ठीक है, तो सर क्या मुझे उसमें FIR भी लॉन्च करानी चाहिए कि मेरे सिग्नेचर फोर्ज के?
Of course. Yes.
सर आपको FIR लॉन्च हो या ना हो, आपको कंप्लेंट तो लिख के जरूर देनी चाहिए।
जी।
साथ में अपने आपको कहना चाहिए साहब these are my admitted signatures, you check the signatures.
जी।
One has to say that.
ठीक है सर, नेक्स्ट पे आता हूँ सर मैं। काफी सारी क्वेरी तो सर सेम होंगी, तो फिर आप so MCQ Limited, a company filed its financial statement with ROC signed by someone in the name of CAA. Later on, MCQ Limited committed a serious fraud. Now CAA is being called by SFIO again and again without his fault. I think वो same बात है ये भी।
देखो गर्ग साहब, bottom line is this, that if the chartered accountant's signatures have been forged, therefore I mean this identical positions will remain. The facts may vary, but then the identical position will remain. And a chartered accountant cannot be heard to be complaining that why is he being called for investigation. तो इन्वेस्टिगेशन तो नेचुरली कोई करेगा, तो करेगा तो बुलाएगा। अब बुलाने में मात्र से ही कोई हरास्ड महसूस करे। मुझे याद है जब मैं हैदराबाद में था, एक एसएससी ने प्लीडिंग ली कि साहब 143(2) इशू ही नहीं हो सकता था, क्योंकि साहब देखिए इस साल की इनकम पिछले साल की इनकम से 30% ज्यादा थी। एक बीच में सर्कुलर आया था, आपको पता नहीं याद होगा नहीं होगा।
हाँ थी।
अच्छा, तो उस वक्त तक लॉ डेवलप नहीं हुआ था। उस वक्त तक लॉ जो था वो ये था कि भाई एक बार 143(2) इशू हुआ, चाहे वो गलत हुआ, तो उसकी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रेमेडी है, उसकी कोई जुडिशियल रेमेडी नहीं है। तो मुझे याद है मैंने कहा भाई आपको क्या प्रेजुडिस हुआ 143(2) इशू होने से? अरे भाई आप जाओ आईटीओ के सामने, बतलाओ भाई आपकी इनकम क्या है, एविडेंस दो, जो आपकी करेक्ट इनकम है वो एसेस कर देगा। अब जैसे कि जो 6 महीने पहले तक प्रैक्टिस करता था उसे नहीं मालूम कि आईटीओ के सामने जाने का क्या मतलब होता है। अब वो मतलब जो होता है तो होता है, लेकिन कानून को तो देखने का एक पर्टिकुलर नजरिया ही है ना कि भाई वन इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू ज्वाइन इन्वेस्टिगेशन, वन कैन नॉट शर्क अवे फ्रॉम और शाई अवे फ्रॉम इन्वेस्टिगेशन। ठीक है ना सर?
सर ये जो 5वां क्वेश्चन है ये राकेश भाई साहब आपके लिए आई थिंक
क्या है सर? हाँ
सर 5वां है XYZ लिमिटेड entered into transaction of sale purchase of goods without any actual sale purchase. During the course of assessment proceedings, the AO dig out the real nature of transaction and the assessee company accepted the same. While recording the statement before the AO, one of the director falsely told that these accommodation entries were arranged by the auditor. Whether the auditor will be subjected to penalty under section 271 AAD.
देखो गत साहब आपने खुद ही आंसर दे दिया कि फाल्सली उसने कहा है, तो whether something is false or not is based on the facts. So if the facts are like this, that the statement which the director has given was false, then nothing would happen on the chartered accountant. Now if it is again a matter of verification, cross verification and based upon evidences and counter evidences. Now उसने statement दिया, one piece of evidence has come against you. Now how can that piece of evidence be demolished or trashed or countered by you? Now that would depend upon the facts of each case and the mode and manner in which you want to counter that evidence. ठीक है ना?
इसमें क्वेश्चन ये है सर कि ओनरशिप किसके ऊपर है कि भाई मैंने मेरा तो कोई रिकॉर्डिंग भी नहीं है, मैंने तो कोई दिलवाई भी नहीं, मेरा कोई सिग्नेचर भी नहीं है, व्हाट्सएप नहीं है, ईमेल नहीं है, कम्युनिकेशन नहीं है.
all these will be your defense. But a person who has stated something on oath, now that is also a piece of evidence. Therefore, how can that piece of evidence be traced is that you have to cross-examine him. And after cross-examining him, you will have to bring inconsistency and contradiction in his deposition. And when there will be contradiction and deposition, then obviously his testimony will not be believed. When his testimony will not be believed, that whatever evidence was surfaced because of his evidence, because of his statement, that will wither, that will disappear, and therefore nothing can happen to you.
ठीक है सर.
It is a mathematics.
6 भी almost एक सही है.
ये कह रहे हैं अमित जी, कुछ कह रहे हैं.
हाँ अमित जी.
To add to what Rakesh ji has said, you know, one has to, that is what I was stressing upon, that one has to understand the nature of this statement and the value of evidentiary value of this statement.
This
statement is a statement of the accused. This statement is a very weak piece of evidence. This statement on its own cannot prove it. It requires corroboration. Unless there is some corroborative evidence, this statement cannot implicate the chartered accountant. So when the CA is facing the music, he must understand the value of that evidence. You know, that evidence which is he's being confronted with, if he understands that it's a very weak piece of evidence and there is no corroborative evidence, then he will be able to put his defense properly also.
तो सर 6th और 7th ऑलमोस्ट सेम है, वो सेम रेमेडी है. 8th थोड़ा डिफरेंट है. Mr. Say in India was providing consulting services to an US company which entered into an JV with Mr. XYZ and incorporated a company, ABC Company Private Limited. Mr. CA India was asked to provide consultancy to the ABC company as well. After a few years, US company sold its stake to Mr. XYZ through an agreement SSPA. Mr. XYZ didn't pay consideration as per the terms settled in SSPA. Mr. XYZ issued few PDCs to US company in favor of an Indian company, which also got bounced. Beside monetary consideration, a property of ABC Company Private Limited was also given to an Indian subsidiary of US company. This property was sold by the US company through Mr. CA. US company initiated check bouncing proceeding in Indian courts. XYZ did not have intention to pay, but feeling legal pressure decided to frame CA in false forgery and misappropriation of funds in the sale of property transactions. XYZ made a complaint with the EOW and police and put pressure on Mr. CA to stop consulting the US company.
गर्ग साहब, ये तो बिल्कुल आम ट्विस्टिंग वाली बात है if that case which they have put is false, then of course the CA will have to, because the intention is also clear that the intention is to arm twist the CA. And when the allegations against the chartered accountant are false, they will have to be met and they will be successfully met.
जी. अच्छा सर, इसमें 8वां 9वां भी वैसे ही है, 10वां भी वैसे ही है,
जी सर,
11 वाला भी वैसे ही है, 12 भी ऑफ कोर्स सेम हैंडल हो जाएगा। 13 सर थोड़ा बड़ा है, मैं आपको लिख के दूंगा क्योंकि बोलने से बात नहीं बन पाएगी इसकी।
ठीक है
सर, अभी मेरे कुछ कलीग्स हैं, अनिल ठाकुर जी और दूसरे पार्टिसिपेंट्स कुछ पूछना चाह रहे हैं, तो यू कैन आस्क अनिल ठाकुर जी, यू कैन आस्क क्वेश्चंस।
गुड इवनिंग सर।
गुड इवनिंग।
हाँ सर, मेरी क्वेरी है कि मेरे एक एसएससी हैं, उन्होंने परचेज की, परचेज करने के बाद एक चेक दे दिया, चेक डिसऑनर हो जाता है, और उस एसएससी की जस्ट मैं जीएसटी रिटर्न फाइल करता हूँ और चेक बाउंस हो जाता है। वो ये कहिए कि एसएससी आउट ऑफ टाउन या कहें कि उसका पता नहीं चलता। पुलिस वालों का फ़ोन मेरे पास आता है, वो कहते हैं कि आप रिटर्न फाइल करते हैं तो आपको ज़रूर पता है कि आपका एसएससी कहाँ है। मैं उन्हें उनके जो मेरे पास इंफॉर्मेशन होती है मैं उनको डिलीवर कर देता हूँ, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी वो मुझे बार बार परेशान करते हैं कि जी आप हमें बताओ कहाँ हैं। और क्योंकि उसमें जो अमाउंट इन्वॉल्व थी इनवॉइस के, जो चेक डिसऑनर हुआ था वो 3 लाख के आसपास का था, तो वो अल्टीमेटली हरास करने के लिए वो ये कहते हैं कि जी आपका ग्रुप है जो लोगों से परचेज करता है और उनकी पेमेंट भी नहीं करता। तो अल्टीमेटली वो कहते हैं जी हम आपको इसमें इन्वॉल्व करेंगे, या तो आप हमें 75,000 दे दें या फिर हम आपका नाम इसमें इंक्लूड करेंगे। तो इसके अगेंस्ट में आप मुझे बताइए, ये मेरे साथ प्रैक्टिकल है जो मेरे लास्ट ईयर हुआ था, तो इस केस में हम क्या करें? जैसे कि पुलिस वाले का फ़ोन आता है हम तो घबरा जाते हैं और हमें पता भी नहीं है कि हमारे अगर फ़ोन आए तो हम कैसे हैंडल करें सामने वाले को। हमारे पास जो इन्फॉर्मेशन होती है ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हमारे पास क्या होगा, एसएससी का आधार कार्ड होगा, पैन कार्ड होगा, वो हम उन्हें दे भी रहे हैं, उसके बावजूद भी इस टाइप से परेशानी होती है।
ठाकुर साहब, एक वन हैज टू फॉलो अ प्रोटोकॉल कि आपके पास में एसएससी आपको जो जो इन्फॉर्मेशन आप एसएससी के बिहाफ पे अपलोड कर रहे हो, you should be in a position to show, demonstrate that the SSC has given this information to you. And in such a WS type of SSC, you should also have the mode by which you received it. Suppose you received it by email from him, or suppose you received it personally. You can always say that he came to my office, gave me this information, and I uploaded this information. And you must have his counter signatures or at least some kind of a proof on the information which he is providing to you. If those are not there, then of course you are putting yourself in some kind of trouble. But if you are taking care, और देखो हम लोगों के प्रोफेशनल्स के पास में एक हमें कहीं ना कहीं इंस्टिंक्ट भी होती है, जो क्लाइंट बदमाश होते हैं, जो गलत किस्म के क्लाइंट होते हैं, हमें इंस्टिंक्टिवली पता चल जाता है कि ये क्लाइंट्स सही नहीं है. So we have to be more careful with those clients. There can be one very reputed person, you know that this person is a very genuine person. One can even take a little lightly. But whenever you have this instinct, you have to, you have to be strict about all the following this protocol. And so that, and whenever, if the police officer is threatening you, record it. Make a recording. Why should you, आपको डरने की क्या जरूरत है? जब आप गलत नहीं हो, आपने कोई गलत काम किया नहीं है, तो आपको डरने की क्या जरूरत है? You should record that he is asking for bribe.
ठाकुर साहब लॉ करो साथ में, उससे भी एक मित्र साहब कुछ कह रहे हैं.
मैं राकेश जी, मैं एक इफ यू परमिट मी.
हाँ मित्र साहब की बड़ी वैल्यूएबल होगी. हाँ
देखिए, हमारे सीएस में जो मैंने अभी तक देखा है,
हाँ,
वो राइटिंग में बिलीव नहीं करते. जाते हैं जुबानी जुमा खर्च पूरा कर लेंगे, लेकिन रिटर्न में कोई चीज नहीं लाएंगे. आपको पुलिस वाला एक बार बुलाता है, पुलिस वाला बुलाए या कोई भी अथॉरिटी बुलाए, एक बार आप चले जाइए, अगर आपको लगता है हरेसमेंट हो रही है, देयर इज हायरार्की ऑफ ऑफिसर्स। ऐसा नहीं है, आज हमें भी काम करते करते 35 वर्ष हो गए प्रैक्टिस में, लेकिन इतनी अंधेरगर्दी तो नहीं है बिल्कुल कि कोई भी जाएगा और चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट को एक बुद्धि पकड़ के और काम करवा लेगा। ये अभी किसी में हिम्मत नहीं है हिंदुस्तान में इतनी ज्यादा। तो
बिल्कुल
विद फ्यू एक्सेप्शंस। आप सेकंड टाइम जाएं, आप रिटर्न में लेके जाइए एप्लीकेशन, काइंडली गेट इट रिसीव्ड फ्रॉम देम। जो भी आपको कहना है उसको रिसीव कराइए। नहीं रिसीव करता, आज की तारीख में व्हाट्सएप करने के साधन है, मेल करने के साधन है, नेक्स्ट ऑफिसर को आप लिख सकते हैं, उसके बाद जा सकते हैं। मेरा इतना ही कहना था।
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने, बिल्कुल सही कहा मित्तल साहब,
बिल्कुल ठीक बात है। और मैं समझता हूँ मित्तल साहब, डरने की क्या आवश्यकता है? अगर आपने कोई गलत काम किया नहीं है तो व्हाई आर यू अफ्रेड?
बिल्कुल ठीक,
बिल्कुल ठीक।
और
मैं ठाकुर साहब से एक बात और पूछना चाह रहा था कि ठाकुर साहब का एक पर्सनल जो मुद्दा है अभी, जो इश्यू सामने आया, उसके बाद भी आपकी किसी तरह की डॉक्यूमेंट्स का लेन देन उसके साथ हुआ है या क्या हुआ है, वो थोड़ा सा उन्होंने क्लैरिफाई नहीं किया।
नहीं सर, मैं उसी के बारे में कहना चाह रहा था, लेकिन मेरी बात थोड़ी सी रह गई। एक्चुअल में क्या है सर, कुछ क्लाइंट ऐसे होते हैं जो ये कहते हैं कि आप हमारी रिटर्न फाइल कर दो, नील की रिटर्न फाइल कर दो, और हम आपकी फीस जो है वो हाफ ईयरली पे कर देंगे या ईयरली पे कर देंगे। ऐसे बहुत क्लाइंट होते हैं जो ऐसे मंथली बेस पे आपको पे नहीं करते। तो कुछ ऐसे ही वही क्लाइंट थे, उनकी हम नील की रिटर्न फाइल करते रहे।
मतलब उसके बाद भी आप फाइल करते रहे?
नहीं, उसके बाद नहीं किया, उसके बाद नहीं किया। ये उससे पहले की बात है। और जबकि हमारा एसएससी से कोई कांटेक्ट नहीं हो पाया तो हम उनकी नील की रिटर्न फाइल करते रहे थे। बस यही हमारा ये था कि भाई
नील की
रिटर्न,
अनिल साहब नील की रिटर्न जो फाइल करते रहे तो किसी बेसिस पे करते थे, यूं ही कर देते थे?
नहीं सर, जब तक हमें डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं मिलेगा, उन्होंने हमें स्पेसिफिकली बोला था कि अगर मेरी सेल परचेज होगी तो मैं आपको सेंड कर दूंगा डॉक्यूमेंट, अदरवाइज मेरी नील की फाइल कर।
नहीं, यही तो गलती है। ये क्या मतलब हुआ? ना, ये तो
यू आर आई मीन लीडिंग योरसेल्फ इनटू, मतलब मैं कहूँ अच्छा ये कर देना तो कर दोगे, ये क्या मतलब हुआ ठाकुर साहब? ये तो कोई चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट वाली बात नहीं रही, माफ करना। जो कुछ तो लिखवा के लोगे कि नील है, उसकी करोड़ों रुपए की हो, फिर भी वो आपको कह रहा है नील है, तो आप उसकी नील की फाइल कर दोगे? और भाई नील की करनी है तो भैया तू अपने उस पे कर, आईपी पे कर, मेरे उस पे क्यों कर रहा है?
तो यही चीज मैं आप लोगों से ये चीज आपकी नॉलेज में लाना चाह रहा था। ये केवल मेरा ही कंसर्न नहीं है, ये बहुत से मेंबर्स हैं जो इस टाइप से।
तो ठाकुर साहब ऐसे में तो बड़ी मिनिमम आवश्यकता है इस बात की कि कोई व्यक्ति फैक्ट्स आपको बिना सप्लाई किए हुए, एविडेंस दिए हुए और आपसे कह रहा है ये कर दो, और फिर आप अपनी आईपी एड्रेस से वो कर रहे हो, तो फिर तो आप गलत कर रहे हो ना।
फिर तो आपका ही इन्वॉल्वमेंट हो गया ना, वो तो क्लियर कट प्रूफ भी हो जाएगा, यू आर आल्सो इन्वॉल्व्ड, फिर तो प्रूव हो जाएगा।
नहीं सर, देखिए प्रूव क्योंकि ये मैटर कुछ इस टाइप से है ही नहीं। ये मैटर इस टाइप के, भाई सामने वाले ने चेक दिया, वो बाउंस हो गया, तो उसमें मेरी क्या लायबिलिटी बन गई
सर? वो
मेरे पास
एक तो फीस का ही तो था,
आप ले लीजिए,
फीस का चेक था ना, फीस का चेक बाउंस हो गया ना।
नहीं, फीस का नहीं सर, उसने परचेज की होगी XYZ से,
तो
चेक बाउंस हो गया।
उसका तो कोई बात नहीं है वो तो, लेकिन आप नील का जो कह रहे हो ना, नील में उसने कह दिया कि भाई भरते रहो, मैं दे दूंगा अगर होगी, तो वो गलत है। हर महीने आप
नहीं सर, वो जस्ट मेरा आईपी एड्रेस से।
सर गर्ग साहब, मैं कुछ कहना चाहूंगा
जी।
हेलो,
हाँ जी बोलिए
गर्ग साहब
जी।
सर अभी जो बात कर रहे थे अनिल ठाकुर, जो बात कर रहे हैं कि मेरे क्लाइंट ने मुझे एक इस तरह से स्टैंडिंग इंस्ट्रक्शन दे दी कि यदि मेरी सेल ना हो तो आप नील की रिटर्न फाइल कर दें। ये बात तो बिल्कुल ठीक है, बिल्कुल सही बात है। रिस्पेक्टेड राकेश गुप्ता जी भी कह रहे हैं कि गलत है, बिल्कुल गलत है। लेकिन यदि सर मैं नील की रिटर्न फाइल कर रहा हूँ और आपने देखा होगा कि जीएसटी के केस में ओटीपी क्लाइंट के मोबाइल पे जाता है या उसकी मेल आईडी पे जाता है, ओके सर। यदि मैं हम उससे, मेरा स्टाफ उनसे ओटीपी ले रहा है उस समय while we are filing the nil return, ओके सर, तो क्या ये प्रूव नहीं हो पाएगा कि उसने अपना ओटीपी दिया है, उसकी परमिशन मिली है, उसने ऑथराइज किया है?
बिल्कुल ठीक है सर, ओटीपी से हम फाइल करते हैं। यस,
whether this will not be proved,
करेक्ट।
ओटीपी तो हम उसके मोबाइल से ले रहे हैं सर, उनसे फोन करके ले रहा है मेरा स्टाफ, सर ओटीपी है, ओटीपी मुझे दे दीजिए।
भगवान दास जी, ये तो क्वेरी का रिप्लाई आपने ही दे दिया ओटीपी जब आप क्लाइंट से ले रहे हैं, इट मींस आपको क्लाइंट के वेयर अबाउट्स का पता है। आपको फोन नंबर, आपकी फोन से, वो फोन से दे रहा है या कैसे फॉरवर्ड कर रहा है, तो ही इज वेरी वेल आस्क यू। मेरे ख्याल से ओटीपी अगर वो फॉरवर्ड आपको कर रहा है तो आपके उसमें है, संपर्क में हो।
ओटीपी मिल जाता है, फोन तो हमने दे ही दिया ना, सामने वाली पुलिस को हमने दे दिया।
नहीं, पुलिस आपसे उसके वेयर अबाउट्स पूछना चाह रही है, तो आपको जितने वेयर अबाउट्स पता है, आप ये तो बताइए कि उनके मेरे पास ये ओटीपी इस नंबर से आया, वो नंबर उनको प्रोवाइड कीजिए।
जो उनके नंबर रहे हमारे पास थे, वो हमने उन्हें दिए किए हैं।
तो फिर तो आप हायर ऑफिसर को कंप्लेंट कीजिए, उसमें कोई समस्या नहीं है।
नहीं सर, वो तो क्या मैंने हैंडल कर लिया, मैंने उसी समय पुलिस वाले को अच्छे से समझा दिया था अपने उसके बाद इसने मुझे परेशान नहीं किया। लेकिन फिर मैं कहता हूँ कि अल्टीमेट कहीं ना कहीं इस टाइप से परेशान करते हैं।
नहीं, मैं आपको एक बात और कह रहा हूँ इसमें, मैं अगर मुझे ये काम करना हो तो मैं सिर्फ ओटीपी से संतुष्ट नहीं हूँ, मैं रिटर्न बना के चाहे उसकी ईमेल पे या उसके व्हाट्सएप पे, उसके रजिस्टर्ड टेलीफोन नंबर पे व्हाट्सएप पे करूंगा। मैं कहूंगा प्लीज अप्रूव, वंस ही सेंड्स इट, यस अप्रूव्ड, आई विल अपलोड इट।
यस, ये करना
सर थैंक यू सर, मैं थोड़ा रोकना चाहूंगा इसमें। सर प्रैक्टिकली ये पॉसिबल नहीं हो पाता सर। एक सीए के ऑफिस में या एक एडवोकेट के ऑफिस में, सपोज उसके पास ही इज डीलिंग विद 300 क्लाइंट्स, ओके सर, 300 रिटर्न मुझे फाइल करनी विद इन 5 डेज, तो सर ये प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल नहीं हो पाता कि हर एक रिटर्न को उसके अप्रूवल के लिए हम मेल करें। दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल सर। अनिल ठाकुर, मैं ठीक कह रहा हूँ, आप बताएं।
बिल्कुल सर, सही कह रहे हैं सर आप, बिल्कुल ऐसा पॉसिबल, प्रैक्टिकली ऐसा पॉसिबल नहीं है। देखिए लॉ की कहने की हम कह सकते हैं,
उसी हिसाब से आपके पास आदमी भी होने चाहिए। Very frankly, I'm sorry to say this, but I will not be satisfied with just the OTP number. Okay. I will, when the things are, as I said, when the going is good, everything is fine. But when the going is bad, then these are the things which put you to harassment. अगर आपने वो व्हाट्सएप किया हुआ होता या आपने ईमेल पे अप्रूवल लिया हुआ होता, तो कोई माई का लाल आपको टच भी नहीं कर सकता, वो आपको पुलिस स्टेशन भी नहीं बुला सकता, once you had provided that information. Very
सर जैसे पुलिस ने कॉल किया तो उसके बाद मेरा क्या रिएक्शन होना चाहिए एज अ प्रोफेशनल?
डेसर अनम्यूट करें सर, आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट करें सर। डेसर इज सेइंग समथिंग।
I forgot to unmute myself, but I must tell you, young man, Mr. Thakur, that these times are such that you being in a responsible profession have to act also responsibly. And I have come across many brilliant CAs, but simultaneously I have come across many chartered accountants becoming participants with politicians, money launderers, and actively associated in all those activities, leaving trail like anything. So anything you do, always I say, do due diligence. A client you take a due diligence like a bank doing the KYC, you must take it. If it is a stray client, it is coming only for a GST refund. Don't, merely because you will get 25,000 rupees for filing one. Don't do it unless you know who he is, what are his antecedents, what are his concerns, what are his businesses. Shortcut to success is not there. Success is built on foundation of a stone, on morality, on ethics. So what I would always suggest to you, that you must, even when you apply for a loan from a bank, large number of CAs are arraigned in money laundering because they have supplied fraudulent balance sheets and profit loss account, and it has been proved that it has come from their office. Hard disks are in their office. You may say that stamp, forgery, all those things can be said, but hard truth can be found out also by investigators. So always to remain clean, keep the head high and do your work with due diligence is the motto. And you have years in your support. You will go to the top. So why you go for the shortcut?
Very right.
So that I can possibly suggest you have another session on the role of a CAs in relation to unlawful acts by their clients.
Yes.
And Rakesh ji could talk to you about the provisions of Evidence Act, how you have qualified privileges, not absolute privileges, and what are your rights, what are not your rights. So that will help you much. Merely because a check has bounced, what can I do? We cannot do anything. We do not. If a person is indulging in false purchases and only to keep an evidence that he has made a payment and that bounced, that only the false check will be this thing. A good investigator will be able to get to the bottom of it. Only thing, the police who is doing it, they are not good investigators. If it is a case of a false purchase and evidence is being built up by making a payment and check bouncing, it is not a foolproof way of getting out of this thing. So I told something probably that is required in present times, because I feel bad to see large number of professionals are getting money laundering abatement notice, which is not good, which they do not deserve the hard work they do. So my request, not only in this matter, everything, you buy a property, make due diligence. You sell a property, make due diligence. Because if you buy property which is Benami property or London property, you will be in soup. If you sell property, it's a common man, not chartered accountant, I'm telling you. So everybody is required to do certain due diligence, and certain, when I say certain, I say rigorous. Please do.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Sir, one example I would like to give. You know, at times our petitions run into hundreds of pages. And then there used to be no emails. We used to call our client in our office and ask him to sit down and read it. And we used to tell him that unless you read it, we will not sign it. Because you are the masters of fact. You know what are the facts. We might miss out on facts, but it is you who has to check it. In the case of the clients who can't read English, we used to provide a junior, a lawyer, who will explain the whole petition to the client and take his consent. And we will certify on the bottom of that petition that the petition has been explained to the client in vernacular. And then he has signed it or has put his thumb impression. So this is the way you have to keep yourself at arm's length with the client's doings. You have to understand it that you cannot justify anything on the basis of convenience. That it is not practical, it is not convenient. So I would say that take that pain also, that is also part of the profession, to be strict with your protocols. That is also very necessary for a good professional.
I think now we have surpassed 2 hours, so let us, Garsab, wind it up.
Thank you very much, sir, for very, very valuable and practical approach for dealing with this police and other regulatory authorities. Now I'll request
मित्तल साहब कुछ कह रहे हैं शायद.
मित्तल साहब कुछ कहना चाहते हैं? Yes sir, please.
राकेश जी, if you permit me for 5 minutes.
अरे सर कमाल है सर, मैं हूँ MI.
मेरे 4-5 क्वेरीज हैं. तो these are not related to CA profession.
अच्छा.
But these are related to economic offenses. अगर आप या
खेमका जी, हाँ सर, मैं तो नॉट कॉम्पिटेंट.
बता दीजिए, कुछ भी हो सके.
ये फरीदाबाद में एक बहुत बड़ा मेगा स्कैम, आपको तो जानकारी है. खैर, मान लीजिए वो अभी सरफेस पे आया है, तो उससे रिलेटेड 1-2 बातें थी कि एक तो जो उन्होंने लगभग 350 कंपनीज अपने घर ऑफिस में बैठ के 350 और 400 समथिंग कंपनीज बना ली, और उसमें सीएस के और सीएस के सिग्नेचर, सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स के ऊपर उन्हीं के सिग्नेचर हैं. 1 या 2 कंपनी सेक्रेटरीज को उन्होंने पकड़ लिया, उनके डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स उन्होंने अपने ऑफिस में रखे हुए थे. और जितने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स इन्वॉल्व नहीं है उसमें, नॉर्मली कंपनी सेक्रेटरी इन्वॉल्व है उसमें. वैसे तो कंपनी का फॉर्मेशन, कंपनीज के सारे डॉक्यूमेंट अपलोड करने का काम, जितना भी, वो सारा की सारा कंपनी सेक्रेटरीज के डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स के माध्यम से हुआ. तो उसमें प्रोफेशनल्स का बचाव किस तरह से हो सकता है, ये तो कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा सा प्रोफेशन के उसमें है. और किस तरह से उसको प्रोफेशनल एक डिनाई कर सकता है कि नहीं, ये मेरा काम नहीं था, ये तो जो मेगा स्कैम के मास्टरमाइंड थे उन्होंने ही ये काम किया.
देखो मित्तल साहब, वो तो यदि कोई व्यक्ति किसी के इंस्ट्रक्शंस पे कर रहा है तो नेचुरली यदि वो व्यक्ति पूरी तरह पाक साफ नहीं हो सकता तो कम से कम एक जो गिल्ट है वो कुछ डाइल्यूट तो होता है कि किसी और के कहने पर किया गया है. अब ये फैक्ट का मैटर है कि क्या और के कहने पर किया गया है, वो अब एविडेंस के द्वारा प्रूव होगा. हालांकि आप सर्कमस्टेंशियल एविडेंस तो इंडिकेट करते हैं कि भाई जिसने ये अपलोड किए हैं वो सोलिली रिस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं है. तो मैं समझता हूं कि ये इसी तरह से ही उन लोगों का, प्रोफेशनल्स का बचाव होगा. वो कंपनी सेक्रेटरी जिन्होंने यदि अपलोड किए हैं तो ये कहें कि साहब हम तो एम्प्लॉइज थे और हमें जो इंस्ट्रक्शंस दी गई तो उसके बेसिस पर हमने किया है.
वो एम्प्लॉइज वैसे नहीं थे, ऑफिशियली तो एम्प्लॉइज नहीं थे, they were professionals independently, they were doing their own practice.
हाँ, नहीं तो यदि वो प्रोफेशनल्स थे और उनको ये कहा गया है तो हालांकि ये गलत तो है, लेकिन अब इस मिटिगेट है. यस सर.
राकेश जी,
हाँ,
एक आम आदमी, एक अ लेमैन जब ये बोलता है कि मुझे लॉ नहीं पता था, तो हमारा कानून बोलता है कि इग्नोरेंस ऑफ लॉ इज नो एक्सक्यूज. he is saddled with a very big burden in that case, that he has to prove what were those circumstances in which he did that. But when a professional says so, I think he will have a humongous burden upon him.
He can't say that somebody put pistol on my head, a revolver on my head, ask me to do it.
How could a professional?
But that will be a bald assertion, because उसके बाद भी ये कितने समय तक रहा,
कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस रहा 8-10 साल तक.
Yes. मैं यही बोल रहा हूँ आपको कि एक प्रोफेशनल अगर ये बोलता है कि मैंने अपने डिजिटल सिग्नेचर बेच दिए थे, तो सबसे पहले तो उसकी प्रोफेशनल डिग्री ही ले लेनी चाहिए. If he had given his digital signatures to someone else and he had sold himself, basically, that is what he is trying to say. So that person should immediately be removed as a professional. His degree should be taken away. That is the first thing. And how can he escape the liability for those acts which were done by using his digital signatures? I am sorry to say that such a person does not even deserve to be defended.
Yes, sir. Mittal sir, next sir. Mittal sir.
Next sir, उन्होंने almost 1,300 crores of rupees का गोल्ड जो है अपनी ही कंपनियों को बिलिंग कर दिया, और वहां से उन्होंने पैसा निकाल लिया 1300 करोड़ रुपए का लगभग इन पर्टिकुलर ईयर, सिंगल ईयर।
मित्तल जी एक सेकंड मैं कुछ बोलना चाहूंगा।
अमित जी सुनो, मित्तल साहब को सुनो पहले।
नहीं राकेश,
मैं बस एक चीज पूछ रहा हूँ
राकेश जी, मैं ये चाहूंगा कि ये वेबिनार शुड नॉट बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ पर्सनल एडवाइस।
नहीं, मैं उसके ऑडिटर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की उसमें पूछ रहा हूँ मैं।
We should, because the webinar can have the professionals who might be advising the other side or who might be advising anybody.
अमित जी, अब मित्तल साहब बहुत अनुभवी हैं, आप उनको सुनो। वो he himself has remained the judge. When I am there, then you please.
ठीक है।
मैं उसमें ऑडिटर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की बात थोड़ा सा पूछ रहा था।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
क्या ऑडिटर्स का कहीं कोई उसमें एक तरह से रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कोई?
मित्तल साहब, उसमें ये कहूंगा ऑडिटर्स को ये प्रूव करना पड़ेगा कि उन्होंने अपनी प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटीज जो डिलीजेंस है विच इज एक्सपेक्टेड फ्रॉम द ऑडिटर्स, वो उन्होंने डिस्चार्ज किए हैं या नहीं किए हैं। और यदि नहीं किए हैं तो नेचुरली फिर तो जो प्रोफेशनल मिसकंडक्ट की जो प्रोसीडिंग्स है उसमें आएगा।
तो खेमका जी ने अभी जो कहा, मैं उनकी बात को ध्यान में रखते हुए मैं आगे कैरी फॉरवर्ड उसमें नहीं करूंगा।
नहीं, आई थिंक यू कैन कैरी ऑन। ये तो आप जनरलाइज ही तो पूछ रहे हैं।
नहीं, कोई ऐसी बात नहीं,
कोई किसी का नाम तो ना ले रहे हैं आप।
नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, ऐसे आई डोंट वांट टू हर्ट द फीलिंग और सेंटिमेंट्स।
अरे कोई बात, चलो अमित जी
कॉल कर लो, आई विल आंसर एवरीथिंग, देयर इज नो
चलो अब नॉर्मल सी एक दो बातें और है।
जनरल क्वेश्चन है सर, जनरल क्वेश्चन नहीं है सर।
अभी हमने सबने देखा कि रिया चक्रवर्ती के चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स का जो ऑफिस है वो रेड किया गया, सर्च किया गया कंटिन्यूअसली, या रिया चक्रवर्ती के अलावा और भी कल्प्रिट्स का। क्या कभी ऐसा इंस्टेंस हुआ है कि किसी एडवोकेट का भी ऑफिस कभी सर्च किया गया हो इस तरह के सर्कमस्टेंस में?
परसों ही हुआ है
सर। वो नॉर्मल केस में मतलब वो फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड वाला मामला था, वो खुद की इन्वॉल्वमेंट है जहां तक
217 करोड़ का।
हाँ, वो तो फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड का है। लेकिन अगर एडवोकेट एक कोर्ट में स्टेटमेंट फाइल करता है नोइंगली, मैं उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ राकेश जी। अब मैं थोड़ा सा फिर वहीं आना चाह रहा हूँ कि कोर्ट ने एक फिक्स किया सर्टेन अमाउंट कि इनको कल्प्रिट्स को 100 करोड़ के डिपॉजिट ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज पे इनको एक्यूज्ड को रिलीज कर दिया जाए। अब एक जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स फाइल किए गए उसमें बोगस जो लैंड के डॉक्यूमेंट्स थे वो फाइल किए गए, एनकम्बर्ड प्रॉपर्टीज के डॉक्यूमेंट फाइल किए गए, और उसमें जो फाइल किए गए उनमें एक्यूज्ड के तो सिग्नेचर हैं, फाइलिंग के टाइम जो डॉक्यूमेंट है उसमें एडवोकेट के भी सिग्नेचर हैं। तो अच्छा, उसे पता है, क्योंकि मैंने एक रिप्लाई फाइल किया उस केस में, मैंने स्पेसिफिकली कोर्ट को कहा कि इस तरह के फ्रॉडुलेंट डॉक्यूमेंट्स फाइल करने के लिए इस एडवोकेट के अगेंस्ट भी एक्शन लिया जाए। लेकिन ऐसे केस में एडवोकेट के अगेंस्ट में कुछ नहीं होता। डोंट टेक अदरवाइज खेमका जी, मतलब वैसे मैं वैसे कर रहा हूँ। लेकिन चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को
आई विल आंसर सर, आई विल आंसर, दैट इज व्हाट आई एम टेलिंग यू।
चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को जैसे अभी ठाकुर साहब ने कहा है, किसी ने कहा, उठा के बंद कर दिया जाता है।
आप उसका बेल पास देखना।
अमित जी, आई एम रिक्वेस्टिंग यू, प्लीज प्लीज प्लीज, आई एम रिक्वेस्टिंग यू।
ओके सर।
हाँ हाँ मित्तल सर,
बस मैं वही पूछ रहा था कि ऐसे केस में
सर ऐसा होता है कि एडवोकेट्स ने, मुझे मालूम नहीं कैसे साइन किए हुए होंगे वहां। एक तो होता है भाई एक कि इट इज ए सर्टिफाइड कॉपी ऑफ ए डॉक्यूमेंट, उस कैपेसिटी में एडवोकेट ने किए होंगे, ठीक है?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है।
तो फिर तो कोई भी व्यक्ति ने यदि कोई भी मिस बयानी की है, मिस स्टेटमेंट है, तो नेचुरली वो चाहे एडवोकेट हो चाहे कोई हो, अब चिदम्बरम साहब हो चाहे कोई हो, आई मीन सबको कानून तो सबको बराबर की दृष्टि से ही देखता है सर।
एक ये एम्प्लॉयज को डायरेक्टर बना दिया जाता है, उस केस में आप क्या कहेंगे सर? जिसके पास एक भी शेयर नहीं होता, वो घर का माली है, चपरासी है, कुक है, 100% शेयर होल्डिंग में तो हमारी है, तो उनको डायरेक्टर बना दिया जाता है।
हाँ, तो ये सब चीजें हैं तो गलत। अब इस पे जो भी बेनामी हो सकती हैं या कोई पीएमएलए हो सकता है, मुझे ज्यादा आइडिया नहीं है, तो जो भी प्रोसीडिंग होती है वो सब चलती है।
अब तो कंपनी लॉ में आई थिंक सर, अब तो कंपनी लॉ में स्पेशली उसका लिया जाता है कि भाई कौन क्या है उसका, आई मीन सारा बैकग्राउंड देखा जाता है। तो
yes, yes.
हाँ,
And there is a provision of lifting of veil also.
Yes.
देयर इज वन लास्ट क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम मिस्टर खेमका। अभी खेमका साहब ने ना एक बात कही थी कि जो SFIO, ED और इस तरह के ऑफिसेज में जो स्टेटमेंट रिकॉर्ड की जाती है, दैट इज मतलब क्या कहना चाहिए, रिलायबल स्टेटमेंट है। तो क्या मैं सेक्शन जान सकता हूं अंडर विच सेक्शन द स्टेटमेंट्स रिकॉर्डेड बाय द SFIO ऑफिशियल्स एंड ED ऑफिशियल्स और CBI ऑफिशियल्स आर taken to be true at par?
Those are taken as statements taken before judicial magistrate.
Under which section, sir?
Section 50 है, जो which
section 50 of
PMLA. हाँ. So those are not like, because they are not police officers. They are supposed to be senior government officers, and the person who is called, he is not also a criminal, he is not an accused, he is merely a witness, and he is required to speak the truth. So his statement is taken as if it is before a judicial magistrate, and it has evidentiary value.
What about SFIO? SFIO का
271 sir. Companies Act 271.
271. Thank you sir very much.
थैंक यू सर, बहुत लाइवली और फ्रूटफुल डिस्कशन। गुप्ता जी, खेमका साहब, डैश साहब, नाउ आई विल रिक्वेस्ट, और दिस प्रोसेस विल गो ऑन, यू नो। ये अभी सेमिनार बेसिकली खत्म नहीं कह सकते हम, अभी हॉल्ट पे है, तो वी विल कंटिन्यू होल्डिंग सच टाइप्स ऑफ वेबिनार एंड ऑल दैट और डिस्कशंस। So now I'll request C. Anil Thakur to please deliver vote of thanks, formal vote of thanks.
सर वाईकी सर कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे सर।
हाँ, कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं सर।
मैं इतनी बात ही करनी थी
जी
कि इस बार का बहुत ही लाइवली, और सब लोगों ने इस सारे पूरे गैदरिंग को अपना ही समझा, अपना ही स्टडी सर्कल समझा।
Yes.
Everybody has contributed so nicely. I must place it on record also. एंड सबसे ऊपर वो ये बात हुई कि मैंने इनको गर्ग साहब को कल ही कहा था कि भी आप वो क्वेश्चंस जरा फ्रेम कर लीजिएगा, एंड एट सच ए शॉर्ट टाइम ही हैज ड्राफ्टेड ऑल दोस क्वेश्चंस व्हिच हैज मेड दिस मीटिंग वेरी लाइवली। थैंक यू वेरी मच गर्ग साहब, आपका भी
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू,
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार सर।
अनिल ठाकुर जी प्लीज।
Yes sir. We are very thankful to our guest of honor, Dr. R.N. Dash ji, eminent speaker Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji, Shri Anil Amit Khemka ji, Advocate Supreme Court, for delivering wonderful session on these crucial topics among the members. And we are very thankful to CA YK Juneja ji, CA BD Goyal ji, CA TC Garg ji for organizing such type of seminar on regular basis for the benefit of our members. Also thankful to our senior members, all the respected members for joining this seminar. Thank you sir.
Thank you sir, thank you very much,
and
thank you all the participants for so attentive in the entire 2.5 hour.